Rovers won. Well, Blackburn Rovers did win, but they scored 2 goals. We only scored 1, and unfortunately, we obviously did not get the job done today. I mean, it's just simple as that, as Blackburn Rovers get the win. Good afternoon to you, Brown Electrons on YouTube. Welcome again aboard the You ORNS Watford FC post-match on both YouTube and on X. Thank you very much indeed for listening. For those of you on X who are coming in, those of you on YouTube, thank you very much. Please make your comments on YouTube and, of course, here on X at You ORNS WFC. If you would like to comment vocally on X, you're more than welcome to hit the request button, and I will put you through to fellow Watford supporters on both YouTube and on X after this one at Ewood Park today. Watford losing the game, their 4th defeat in a row in the Championship. That is the first time in at least 10 years that Watford have lost 4 consecutive games in the Championship. Hard to believe that. I would have thought that Watford had lost 4 games in a row in the Championship in the last 10 years, but this is the first time in just over 10 years that Watford have done that. 4 straight defeats now for the Orns. This one was one that will hurt for a little while. Watford took the lead in the second half of this game. Matty Pollock got the goal in the 47th minute, and Watford looked pretty good. Even though they didn't do a whole heck of a lot in this game, they looked pretty good for their lead, and they could not hold on to it. Some poor defending, the familiar story for us, undoing us in the game in the second half as Rovers came back to equalize to make it 1-1. Poor defending led to that. And then the second goal, the same thing. Poor defending. James Abankwah does not close down in the game, doesn't close down the flank on that right side, on his left and on Rovers' right, allowing the ball to get crossed right through the box. And Pollock just does not reach up quickly enough, does not get quickly enough and tight enough to Dolan, who scores the goal to make it 2-1. The first goal, same thing as I said, the mistakes defensively. Ngakia, for the second straight week, fails in defense. He does not know what's going on around him. Against Burnley, the same thing. Ball was crossed above his head. He tries to jump for it. As he did against Burnley, the man behind him, he didn't look behind him to see what was behind him. And as a defender, you've got to be aware of what's going on behind you when you are defending your goal. And Jeremy Ngakia did not look behind him again. And same thing happened again today as Ngakia tries to jump for the ball and there's someone right behind him. You've got to see what's going on around you. Try to box out your attacking player. And Ngakia just did not look at that properly. And the player behind him is allowed to get the ball and put the ball in the back of the net. Pretty much simple as that. It's the same play. It's the same play as what happened last week against Burnley. It's unbelievable. Ngakia for 2 weekends in a row. And today, Ngakia had been very good in the game. He'd been the Watford's most liveliest player, but unfortunately not good enough. Just not good enough. A lot of things going on in this game. Dan wants to speak, and I will let Dan patch Dan in a moment on X to give his thoughts on the game and on Watford at large. Bottom line is, one other thing I want to say before I bring Dan in to the conversation. Watford, to me, look, the game is over. The season's over, right? We know that. We've got one more game left next week. Injuries galore. Loser had to come off. Pollock got injured as well toward the end. We were playing with 10 men because he really couldn't continue, Pollock. And that really typifies the season for me. The injuries and the lack of sensibility in defense that has hurt us. But the bottom line is that I'm going to bring on Dan right now, and I'll read your comments on YouTube as well. Thank you very much indeed, fellow Watford supporters, for joining us. You are listening to and watching You ORNS Watford FC post-match. Please follow Dan's lead and hit the request button on X, and we'll put you through. Dan, a very good afternoon to you after this game. Welcome to You ORNS Watford FC post-match.
Oh, well, you're right, mate.
I'm all right, mate. Dan, how are you?
Yeah, well, not too bad, but yeah, today just showed about the ownership of the club at the moment. It's just the squad's thin, and it's like the players have given up. Honestly, it's just had enough at this point. To be honest, just we need some big investment over the summer, but I just can't see Clevs getting back. They need to stick with Clevs as well, but yeah, it ain't looking good.
I'm very nervous about it, Dan, as well. Very, very nervous, Dan. I was concerned about this one with Clevs, and I was saying, and I don't know if you've heard, but some of the fellow Watford supporters are very concerned as well, and they've heard me say this, and I'm sure others have, is that we have to really keep our eye on this owner, and we know we don't want him here, but we've got to keep our eye on this owner this summer because he will absolutely stab us in the back. Forgive the use of that language, but you know what I'm talking about. The moment we drop our eye off the ball here, he will sack Clevs in a heartbeat, and that's why we have to keep the pressure on him, Dan.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to a point where, like, if Clevs does go, what happens? Do we start protesting? I don't know, but if Clevs goes, then just what's the point anymore? Like, are we going to give anyone a chance? Like, what's going on?
It's a good, listen, it's a concern. What you're saying, I really don't have an answer for. All I hope for is that the fan base at large gets involved. I mean, this is a really vulnerable time, and your point's well taken, Dan. I mean, it's a very tricky spot. I think a lot of the fans online back in January and February, Dan, were making, I'm sure you were one of them too, making concerted efforts to get Cleverly here and back him. But this owner is tone deaf, as we know.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I just start to see the team to be fighting relegation, and I mean, I don't know what we are after today, but I mean, we're 12th before today, so as bad as it's been, like the recent run of results, how can anyone complain with Clevs? It's ridiculous, to be honest. It really is.
I agree with you. And Dan, we're now in 13th as of this very moment. I think that I don't know how you can get rid of Clevs here, even with the 4 straight defeats. You've got to look at the whole season, Gino. I know Gino's not listening, but Gino, you've got to look at the whole season in totality. You didn't back this manager, Gino. You didn't back him, and you've not backed any of these managers lately for a long time, and you cannot sack this man in 13th. Well, he sacked people in 10th place, but you cannot sack this manager who's created a bond between the fans and the players. The Vic is jumping again. 13th position with no squad, a thin squad, Gino. Come on now, mate. You cannot sack this man.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And my final point I make as well is what I think Gino's done to this club is I know so many people today, including me as well, they just didn't watch the game today because they've lost their passion for Watford. And it's sad, it really is. I haven't lost my passion for Watford, and I will still go to games, but like today I was so unbothered because again we have nothing to play for. Again, we're mid-table. Like, we need to sort this out. The fans are losing trust, losing passion. It's a sad situation.
It is a sad situation, to quote Elton John from years ago in one of his songs. Dan, thank you very much indeed for your comments today.
Yeah, cheers, Omar. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome, mate. Cheers. That was Dan making his comments, making his voice heard here on YOU ORNS Watford FC post-match. One of the things that I think that Dan really makes very clear is that the fan base will become disaffected for sure if Cleverly goes. And we are at this point, I think Dan indicates this as well, where there's nothing to play for. Granted, it's one more game, and you can tell the energy level is a little bit different. Now, there were only a few fans that I was able to see who came up to Ewood Park. To be fair, Lancashire is a bit of a trek, 2 hours or so on the train, a bit more than that obviously, if you're driving it. Or if you're flying there, it's not 2 hours, obviously. But if you're taking a train or a coach, you're talking at least 2+ hours. But yeah, and also another thing I think that factors in, quite frankly, today for the lower attendance, because usually Watford fans, we travel very well anywhere we go. But I think another reason why the attendance might have been a bit lower, quite frankly, might have been because of the funeral of Pope Francis. Not to inject anything beyond football here, but I think that might have been a factor as well. Who knows? But the bottom line is that, as Dan correctly says, Watford really nothing to play for. Of course, their any attempt at playoffs or hope amongst some of the fan base for playoffs ended with that game against Portsmouth, where they lost last Monday, Easter Monday. And so now we're in a situation where you're playing out the string. Now, look, Watford today, for all that has been said, at least Watford looked up for this fight. Now, they didn't do enough, obviously, to win the game, but they were up for it. They weren't on the beach in this game, but the defending has been the familiar story. But the thing is that Everybody knows what the problems are in the men's first team. Everybody knows. As Watford supporters, we are keenly aware of what the issues are in terms of the Watford men's first team. The owner is keenly aware of this as well. He's been the owner at this club for what, 10, 15 years, whatever it is, 13, 14 years, whatever it's been now. For heaven's sakes, Gino, you have the power to do something about this. You have the power, Gino, to do something about this. While many of us want you out, I count myself among them. The obvious question to also ask is who comes in after you? But since it is very clear that you're not leaving the club anytime soon, we as Watford supporters are going to have to continue to put the pressure on you. Whether it's peaceful protest, whether it's social media, whatever it is, done in a responsible way to ensure that as the steward of this club that you presently are, that you do not rip apart the infrastructure of the men's first team and the operations around it. I have to say that. Yes, they've lost 4 in a row. It's the first time in the championship that Watford have lost 4 in a row for at least 10 years. And I know you're going to look at the last 4 results, Gino, and then God forbid, you lose next week at home to Sheffield Wednesday. It's going to make it irresistibly clear for you. Your job will be made very easy. You will then justify the sacking. But I can't justify that sacking, even if they were to lose next week. You have not backed this manager. And you ain't backed him. And you ain't backed him. And you ain't backed the one before him, or the one before him, or the one before him, or the one before him. We have to keep the pressure on this owner. That's the thing I want to say here. That's my chief point here. Let me read out your comments on YouTube. I want to thank everybody for watching and listening on X and on YouTube presently at You ORNS WFC on YouTube. Please subscribe to the You ORNS WFC YouTube channel. Brown Electron says, Ngakia very poor. Yep, certainly is. And Brown made these comments a few minutes ago. I'm just getting to your comments now. Brown Electron says, what was worse was that I thought they weren't that great. He is talking about Blackburn there. 2 scrappy teams, says Brown. Yep, 2 scrappy teams. One of them wanted it a little bit more in the second half in the end. In fact, it seemed that Pollock's goal lit a fire under Blackburn, because Blackburn from there went on to become the much more aggressive team. And coupled with our poor defending, they ended up getting the victory. And Val Ishmael, of course, the former Watford manager, ended up getting the last laugh on this occasion. I think that's 4 consecutive wins now for Blackburn. I mean, they are now squarely in the playoff hunt now. Still in with a chance to get into the playoffs. That's Val Ishmael, of all people. And, of course, of all people, Dennis the Menace, a former Watford player, joining Blackburn and getting on the pitch today. Really went in on Vata, didn't he? And Dennis the Menace doing what he does, as this time he's on the Blackburn team. First time we played against Dennis this season, and there we have it. Now, let me read the rest of your comments on YouTube. If you would like to follow the lead of Dan, who was speaking earlier on X, and you want to have your voice heard, please hit the request button, and we'll gladly put you through to listen, to speak to all of us as Watford supporters here on You ORNS WFC post-match. My name is Omar. It's a pleasure to have you here on this Saturday. It is a good Saturday morning here, nice and sunny here in San Francisco, California. I do hope that the weather is good where you are and that you are doing well with everything that's going on in the world today. Thank you for your precious, precious time spent here on the You ORNS Watford FC post-match. After Blackburn Rovers 2, Watford 1 at Ewood Park today, Watford now with 4 consecutive defeats. They're in 13th position. Well, Watford have an opportunity next week to finish out strong with a win, at least do that at the Vic, and maybe we will reflect back a little bit more positively on the last few weeks and maybe Tom Cleverley has a chance to save his job. Now, I told you that Watford would not sack Tom Cleverley during this season, and he would make it through an entire season without being sacked. But the question now, I told you that in August before the season began. The question now, fellow Watford supporters, is will he make it through the summer? And will he begin next season as the Watford head coach? That is your big question now. And we have to play a major role in ensuring that he stays. And the way that things were going in the Watford Observer, in a story I saw earlier today, it seems as if Tom Cleverley may well be out. Now, he was saying the things that stand out for him this season were the win at Derby County and the support that he got at Coventry. And it sounded very past tense. Now, obviously, those events happened in the past at Coventry and at Derby, where Watford got the win. But just the way that he was saying it cleverly in the quotes from the article in the Watford Observer, I don't know. I just got the feeling that he was saying goodbye. Now, listen, that may be me taking things way out of context, but the bottom line is that things in football happen overnight. You know, look, there's sackings that happen overnight. Some of the sackings in any sport are inexplicable. I've seen some of them in the NBA lately. You know, the Denver Nuggets got rid of their head coach. And I'm just thinking, why that? What? Denver, they're in the playoffs. Why did you sack him a week before the season ended? But they did. I mean, so these things happen in all sports where you get these sackings and you don't understand what the ownership is doing. And I think there could be real problems. Listen, I want to say to you that continuity is the most important thing. And if this owner disrupts that yet again, I think you're going to have some fans who are really going to give up on the Watford boat. And I hope that the Watford fan does not do that. We need the Watford fan as passionately as ever. And I do hope that you continue to have your voice be heard and that you continue to support the best interests of the club. The owner has to do the same. And we do have to continue to get behind Tom Cleverley and make our voices heard across the summertime. We really do. I've been saying this for several weeks now. If you've been watching on YouTube and if you've been listening on X, you will have known that I've said this for several weeks now, back in as far back as February of this year and into March of this year. We have to get behind this manager and we have to make sure that the owner knows that we are backing him and that we're full support of him. Listen, we have to make our voices heard. And the owner may still go turn around and still sack him. But the bottom line is that he has to know that we want Tom Cleverley here. We have to let him know that. Because if he doesn't hear from us during the off season, he will probably say, oh, they don't seem to be too concerned. A lot of these sackings take place over 2 time periods, either the international breaks or during the off season. That's when these sackings happen, generally speaking. 2 times a year, during an international break or during the off season. And right now, there is every possibility that Tom Cleverley could be sacked. Every possibility. What do you think about this, Watford supporters? I'm going to read out the rest of your comments. Do you think Tom Cleverley will be here at the beginning of the summertime, at the beginning of next season as Watford head coach? That is what I would love to hear from you. I'm going to read out your comments on YouTube. For those of you on X, I want to thank you very much indeed for being aboard here on the You ORNS Watford FC post-match. It's been a pleasure to have you. I'm going to be heading to Instagram to pose some of these questions that I have been posing. But until our next and final game of the season, that's next Saturday against Sheffield Wednesday at the Vic, I want to thank you very much indeed for those of you on X. Thank you so very much for your support. Thank you for continuing to listen and watch. And again, I'm off to Instagram world at YOU ORNS WFC. Don't forget to support YOU ORNS WFC on X and on Instagram, as well as on YouTube by subscribing to the YOU ORNS WFC YouTube channel as well. Of course, there's also a podcast, which I've not really done much on over the last few weeks, but there is the YOU ORNS podcast as well on Apple and Spotify. So join us on both YouTube and on Instagram, won't you? I'll be taking your comments on Instagram and reading them out. Might do a quiz as well as far as Watford are concerned. That is it for now on X. We continue on YouTube and go to Instagram next. And until next time on X, I'm Omar saying, "Yods." Take care, those of you on X. We continue on Instagram and YouTube. Well, Watford supporters, thank you very much indeed for continuing to watch here on Instagram. My name is Omar. It's a pleasure to have you aboard, fellow Watford supporters. Thank you very much indeed for another edition of You ORNS Watford FC post-match on YouTube. We'll be going across live on Instagram in just a few moments' time to get some of the Watford support reaction after yet another defeat. I'm very concerned about Watford at this point as far as Tom Cleverley is concerned, and I think we really have to head to that direction now with Tom Cleverley. Do you think he will stay as Watford manager? At least, let me put it this way. Do you think that he will start next season as Watford manager? That is the question that I have for you, and I will repeat that question in just a few moments' time on Instagram, because we will be going there, crossing there live, and I'll read your comments out on YouTube as well. It's a great pleasure to have you aboard. Thank you very much indeed. And hello on Instagram as well. Yours truly, Omar here. Another edition of the You ORNS Watford FC YouTube post-match, as well as another edition of You ORNS Extra on Instagram Live. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you may be. Good night across the world, wherever you may be watching live here on Instagram and on YouTube. My name is Omar. Welcome aboard, Joker Richardson. Is that right? Oh, Care Richardson. I'm sorry, Joker Richardson. Thank you for joining us on YouTube. Snaps by Halls. Thank you very much for joining us on Instagram, I should say. For both of you, thank you for joining after Watford fall to defeat their fourth consecutive, oh my goodness me, in the championship. You do not want to end the season like this. That's my concern. Holly joins us on Instagram, very concerned about the way Watford have ended this season. They got one more game, 4 defeats on the spin now. Very, very rough. It's the first time in over 10 years that Watford have lost 4 consecutive games in the championship. That's something that the owner can make an excuse for if he chooses to. One of the things we've been talking about here before we came to Instagram, we were talking about this on X and on YouTube, and we'll read your comments on the YouTube in a moment, is that this manager could well be again on thin ice. And I've been posing this question on YouTube and on X to Watford supporters. Do you think that Tom Cleverley will begin next season as Watford manager? That is the question. Love to hear your comments on it. Just embarrassing, says Holly on Instagram in response to Blackburn Rovers 2, Watford 1. Watford took the lead in the game, would you believe? And the very few times this season Watford have had a lead in the game, and very few times this season have Watford lost when they've scored first. But this might be the 3rd time they have done that, or maybe the 2nd time this season that they have lost, having gone in front. Matty Pollock scored the Watford goal. Matty Pollock would end the game injured, and we had Loser injured. It's just been a nightmare season for injuries. And I know a lot of clubs have injuries, but this was not a good game for Watford. They did not do enough in the first half. They were lively. I thought Ngaki was very lively in the first half, and then he turned around and did what he did against Burnley, did not defend properly, did not look behind him. You got to do that. You got to box out your attacking player in your box. And Jeremy Ngaki failed at that again for the 2nd straight week. And as a result, there's a goal that resulted from it. And that really is the thing that hurts you. He wasn't the only culprit in defense. Banquet did not get tight enough to his man. The ball was able to come into the box, and Matty Pollock did not intercept the ball as Dolan scored the winning goal for Blackburn. So Pollock also did not do his job, and a Banquet also did not do his job on that 2nd goal. And there you go. That's the game in a nutshell. Blackburn didn't do very much, but they did enough to win. Watford did not take full enough advantage of a Blackburn side that was absolutely reeling. Blackburn did not play well in this game. We talked about, I've said a million times about Blackburn. They are a team that does not come alive at the big occasion, but they did come alive today. Val Ishmael, the former Watford manager, and Emmanuel Dennis, the former Watford player, on the Blackburn team doing their business, and Val getting one over his former employer. The bottom line is Blackburn is still alive in the playoffs. Lack of confidence, says Holly on Instagram. Dan Atkins says hello on Instagram. Cheers for having me earlier, Omar. We need to continue to speak up against this ownership. Thank you, Dan. It's good to see you again, Dan Atkins. And thank you for joining us on Instagram as well. And thank you for speaking on X earlier. Thank you for that, Dan. Didn't realize it was you, Dan Atkins, but thank you, Dan, for that. We're going to go now also to YouTube. Excuse me, I'm having a little bit of a senior moment here. And I'm going to read out a whole lot of your comments. There's a lot of comments coming here. And I want you to do the same on Instagram. Flood the zone with the comments about your Watford side, what your prescription is for this Watford team, the owner, and everything else going on at Watford and at Vicarage Road with this team and the club at large. Michael Hobson did have a message, but it was retracted, but he does come with a message later. Loka, the West Bromwich Albion fan, I think, or the Portsmouth fan, comes in again. Oh, it's a very charitable fan here, who is a Portsmouth fan, I believe, from last Monday. He said here, hi, on YouTube, says Loka. Hi. Unfortunate that you lost, says Loka. We drew 1-1 with Sheffield Wednesday. We have nothing to play for, but we'll take it. I'm just going to chill here and watch because, like you, because I, like you, are unbiased and have good ball knowledge. Oh, thank you, Loka. That's really kind. Thank you very much, Loka. Continue to watch and chime in if you choose to, Loka. That's a fan of Portsmouth who's been coming in and making the rounds and has been very generous with his comments, which you don't usually get from lots of fans from different clubs, because we normally invest in our own club and we normally just, very passionately invest in our own club. But we also are football fans at large. At least I would like to think that most of us are in general. And, I've watched football from all over the place, all over different countries. By the way, there's a Copa del Rey final today, by the way, between the two El Clasico sides, Real Madrid and Barcelona. That's coming up later on today. I'll watch it. I watch football all over the world. I'm not the only one. I'm sure there's other people here who do. We watch all kinds of sports, whether it's the NFL, NBA, baseball, the hockey that's going on, the NHL playoffs, the terrific playoffs they are. They've turned out to be, as they always are, by the way. The NHL playoffs here in the US and in Canada are just brilliant. They are the best playoffs, and I say that as a big hockey fan, big NBA fan, big every sports fan. I love sports. I'm a big sports fan overall. But look, we are here together to talk about Watford FC, and any comment regarding Watford and the ownership and the players and the manager and your aspirations for next season are forthcoming. Your analysis of this season, would love to get that from you too. We'll be talking about that also on next Saturday after the final game of the season. Your summing up of the season for the Watford supporters. We'll take all of your comments. I'm Omar, and you are watching and listening to You ORNS Watford FC post-match on YouTube and You ORNS Extra on Instagram Live, on, of course, Instagram at You ORNS WFC on both. Please subscribe to the You ORNS WFC channel on YouTube. It would be great to have you aboard there. Michael Hobson says, can't help but feel pressure is right back on TC again. That's what Michael says on YouTube. His interview with Andrew French midweek was very honest, but does suggest he has a lot to learn. My gut feel is Gino will pull the trigger soon. Michael, I'm beginning to think the same way. It does not help when you are going out now with 4 consecutive defeats. It makes it very easy for the owner to do this. I would be vehemently against it, but it is very easy for the owner, and especially if they lose next week, Michael, against Sheffield Wednesday, it would be very, very easy for the owner. You make it very easy for the owner to sack you. If you have a run of 5 consecutive defeats to end your season, makes it very easy for the owner. The question becomes, what do we as fans do? Because it's our role as fans that is going to be very key to this. Now, look, he may still sack him anyway, but that doesn't mean that we don't vocalize our support for Tom Cleverley. Yeah, and I did read that same article. I came across that article this morning, actually, Michael, if you are watching still on YouTube, and it sounded very past tense to me. Just some of those quotes sounded very past tense as far as Tom Cleverley was concerned. It's almost as if Tom Cleverley already knows he's gone. Now, again, I might be taking it over the top with that. I might be way off the barn door, but very revealing interview. I agree. And very honest, Tom Cleverley, as ever, is. Andrew French did a great job with the story, as he always does. But I am very, very concerned, Michael. I think the only thing as we can do as Watford fans is continue to vocalize our concerns on social media, to have some peaceful protests, to keep Tom Cleverley here, because I do think the key toward Watford next season and the season after that is to have Tom Cleverley here to develop the infrastructure more. And I don't care what you invest in, the investment has to start with the head coach. And if you invest in keeping Tom Cleverley here for another season, I think you do the right thing. Now, there are some Watford fans over the last couple of weeks who've come on this forum here and have had some skepticism about Tom Cleverley. They've complained, one or two, about Tom Cleverley's his tactics and his substitutions and all the rest of it, and the defeats. And I agree with the fact that he has to take responsibility for the defeats. And it's not only the players. I agree with that sentiment that those Watford fans addressed. And none of those fans, and I haven't mentioned their names, but none of those fans who I'm referring to in general, it's about 2 or 3 people, have ever said that they want Cleverley out. They're just concerned about him in terms of his tactics and his subs. Now, that's what they say. They want him here, but they do have questions about that. So if indeed you hear that Tom Cleverley, heaven forbid, is sacked either right after the game against Sheffield Wednesday or maybe a few weeks after that, when people are on their butlins, gone on their butlins and done their holiday or gone their holiday, maybe there'll be some Watford fans saying, well, you can understand it. I hope that we don't have that reaction, but every Watford fan is different. And I really, really hope that we actually back this man and that we at least vocalize our concerns on social media and some peaceful protest. The game against Sheffield Wednesday is the opportunity to do that. Will there be any fans doing it at the Vic? That's the question I have. People can say a lot of things on social media, obviously, myself included. But if we don't back that up with actions by peaceful protest, by being at the Vic with our signs and our comments for Tom and our support of Tom, then really it's a lot of hot air and not much else. That's what I have to say about that. I'm going to read the rest of your comments on YouTube. Those of you on Instagram, more comments, please. Would love to read those from you as well. Michael Hobson, thank you for your comment on YouTube. We continue to read out your comments right now on YouTube, by the way. First of all, we'll go to Brown, who is talking to Loka. Always some good footy chat in here, says Brown. Oh, that's very kind, Brown. Thank you for that. Clever looks disjointed and abject. I don't blame him, says Brown Electrons. Does that mean, Brown, that you can see him being sacked? Does that mean, Brown, that you want him to stay? I think you obviously want him to stay. But does that mean, Brown, that you can still see him being sacked? Do you think he already knows? And this is not just to Brown. This last question is for everybody now. Do you think he already knows he's gone? Do the players get the sense that he's gone? Do they know that Tom Cleverley's out the door? I mean, Watford fought hard today in parts of this game. They didn't defend well when it counted, but they fought hard. They gave good account of themselves on the road, which they don't often do. They were fairly lively in the first half. They didn't do enough. A lot of sloppy giveaways first half and silly fouls, and the referee didn't do himself any favors. But the bottom line is, I thought that Watford did decently in the game. They didn't do enough. But what hurt us once again, what's hurt us every week is our poor defending. Really poor. Too deep, sitting too deep, not tight enough to players, not being aware of what's going on behind us and around us. As your right back, Ngakia, who was pretty good for most of the game, has got to be aware of what's going on behind him. You got to box out your attacking player. I mean, you just have to. And Jeremy Ngakia did not do that again today, which led to that goal. Same thing against Burnley last week. Did not do that on Good Friday, last week, when Burnley were there, came from behind to win. I mean, how many games have we lost 2-1? I think 3 of the last 4 of the last 5 games, we've lost by a score of 2-1. I think it's 3 of these 4 games. 1-0 at Portsmouth on Easter Monday. I'll read the rest of your comments here on the You ORNS YouTube post-match, Watford FC YouTube post-match. On Instagram, hello. Come on in, Instagrammers. The water is warm. Actually, it's pretty ice cold after this defeat. But the bottom line is, fellow Watford supporters, thank you so very much indeed for watching and listening. My name is Omar. We continue on for a few more minutes here on You ORNS Extra on Instagram Live and on You ORNS Watford FC post-match on YouTube. Will Barnes joins us. Hello there, Will. Good to see you. It's been a while, Will. Thank you very much indeed for joining us as well on Instagram. Now, Matt says, thank you, Matt. Matt, a regular contributor on YouTube, and it's always a pleasure to have Matt here with some very insightful comments as well as ever. This is what Matt says on YouTube. Hey, Omar, if Potso gets rid of Cleverly, we know exactly what will happen. He'll get a new manager, and they'll be out of the door within about a month or two, because they won't know how the team play. Matt, thank you for your comment. Yeah, Matt, I agree with you. I mean, this is a road to ruin. You have to stick with the manager. We've been talking about this for years as Watford supporters, many of us on these fora, on all kinds of places. We've been talking forever about the need for continuity. Before you talk about playoffs, before you talk about promotion, before you talk about any of that, you need continuity. And it really does start at the top. It starts with backing the manager. It starts with not only backing the manager, but actually funding the manager with valuable roster moves, valuable investment in the men's first team. It also starts with the recruiting. Messiah Edwards came on the pitch today, fine. Play the youngsters next week. They are the future. And yes, Watford are a very youthful team. They're a young side in transition. There's no question that Watford have undergone a lot of transition. Will Barnes says, hello, Will. Thank you for joining us on Instagram, and I really do appreciate you for coming aboard. Great to have you aboard here, Will. Thank you. But this is the thing. We need to have continuity. You've got to spend money. I understand that the funds are what they are, and the debt is supposedly coming down, or has come down. Gino has another club that he's got to be thinking about, Udinese. And I just wonder, or is Gino robbing Peter to pay Paul? And is Gino, I mean, if Gino didn't have Udinese and he just focused on Watford, do you think he would invest better? It's another question. If Gino Pozzo only had Watford as his going concern as a football club, do you think he'd invest better? Or do you think he'd continue to do what he's doing? That's a question to consider as well. Will Barnes on Instagram says this, and thank you, by the way, for your comment, Matt. I do agree. If he gets rid of Clevs, it's going to be the same old rodeo that we've seen for God knows how many years here at this club. And we have got to, if we don't want Clevs to get sacked, we have to do everything as fans in a reasonable, peaceful way to let this owner know that we fully support Tom Cleverley. And we will absolutely not be present at a lot of these games if you sack Clevs. I mean, whatever you've got to do within peaceful reason, you need to let that happen. You need to be vocalizing your discontent and vocalizing your support for Tom Cleverley. I think Tom Cleverley, despite these defeats, has done more than enough to merit another season here. They're going to finish with a higher points total. They're going to most likely finish higher than 15th. They're presently 13th. They had an unbeaten run at the Vic that stretched back to 17 games back to last season. And this is with a thin squad that has not been backed by the owner. You can't sack that man. Now, you can do any blooming thing if you're an owner. I've seen, look, he sacked people at Watford when Watford were in the top 6, top 7. He sacked Vladimir Ivic, didn't he? I mean, Watford were in the top 6 or 7 when Ivic got sacked by the owner. And Troy Deeney basically ran Ivic out of the club because Vladimir Ivic was worse than watching paint dry. And Troy Deeney basically got rid of him. And Troy Deeney has said as much, pretty much. Troy Deeney is an open book about these things. And he basically got Vladimir Ivic out of here. So if they can sack Vladimir Ivic when Watford is 6th and 7th or 6th in the table in 2020 and bring in Cisco, by the way, and the rest was history with Cisco Disco that season, then he can sack Tom Cleverley with Watford in 13th place. And the thing is that we have to understand as Watford fans, and I'm sure we all do, is that this is a business. And football is business, and sentimentality gets thrown out the window. The owner is not long for caring about many of what the fans think. In my view, I don't believe he does. Now, he can say the opposite. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. I don't know. I don't think he does. He's thinking about the money, the viability, the operation, and what the vision is. But he's not invested wisely. Dan called for serious investment, and I call for it as well. Serious investment has to be sensible investment. That is the key. It's that simple, folks. Let me read out what Will Barnes on Instagram has to say, and I'll read out the rest of your comments. Please keep your comments coming. I promise I'll get to them on YouTube. I'll get back to them in a moment, but I want to read out what Will Barnes said on Instagram here. The team is quite lifeless now, says Will. I know Bar and Chakpatazde aren't there, but I wonder what's changed in the dressing room since Boxing Day or around then. Will, that's a very good question. I wonder too, because obviously something has changed in that dressing room. And look, let's just face it. Watford were doing very, very well. They were in the top 6 or 7 for most of this season until we got to, late November or mid-December-ish, right? And then they started to fall off. After that 2-1 win against West Brom at the Vic, they ended up going to Burnley and losing that game. Then they started to lose that string of games in a row. They got the Portsmouth win in between, but then they went on that losing streak that ended that long unbeaten stretch at the Vic. The best unbeaten stretch for 70 years, I think it was, or more, maybe 100 years at the Vic. And things changed a lot. Yeah, it's not been the same, has it? And the last thing this owner, God, the last thing he could ever do is sack this man. Again, no one is unsackable. I'm not sitting here saying that anyone is. Tom Cleverley's not. Pep Guardiola isn't. Bloomin' heck. Carlo Ancelotti isn't. There's talk of Carlo Ancelotti going at Real Madrid. And as I said earlier, Real Madrid and Barcelona do battle in the El Clasico, if you will. It's the Copa del Rey final, the Spanish Cup final, coming up later on today. I'll be keeping an eye on that on a very busy sports Saturday as Real Madrid and Barcelona do battle in the Copa del Rey Cup final, the Spanish Cup final. And he's on the block. I mean, Carlo Ancelotti. I mean, how many Champions Leagues has he won for Real Madrid? He could be sacked. And there's rumors that he is going to be the head coach of the Brazil national team. And it would actually make sense, quite frankly. Brazil has sacked their manager, and next year's the World Cup. Blimey, that's come around quick, hasn't it? It makes perfect sense. Ancelotti's got nothing to prove. He's won a gazillion Champions Leagues for Real Madrid. He's at least 4 or 5 of them. He's won a gazillion of them. He's got nothing to prove. He's won a gazillion La Ligas with them. He's got nothing to prove at Real Madrid. So if someone like Carlo Ancelotti can be sacked, Tom Cleverley can be sacked. And the bottom line is that it don't look good right now. It don't look good. I'm very concerned. I'm not the only Watford supporter who is. A lot of us Watford supporters are very concerned. Are we seeing the inevitable now? That is the question. There's many questions I've got here. The inevitable, is that coming? Are we going to just relent and just say, oh, well, or are we going to vocalize our support for Tom Cleverley? We did so in January and February of this year, right? When the ownership had to put out a statement after putting out a really awkward statement, that's putting it nicely. And then they eventually put out a stronger statement with Tom Cleverley, the owner actually signing off on it and quotes coming from him. We have to put that similar pressure on the owner again. All we have is our voices and our purchasing power. Those are the two things we've got. The season ticket money. Hey, they raise the season tickets for next season. So can we raise our voices in the off season? I know it's tough because football season's over. Watford ain't got nothing to play for. So it is human nature for a lot of us as Watford fans to go, oh, well, summer holidays, we're gone. You know, we're gone off to we're doing our Butlins, we're whatever, we're doing our summer holiday, we're gone. So we don't care. See you in the fall, see you in August. But I think we've got to be careful with that. We should have our summer holiday. But we've got to be keeping our eye on this owner, and we've got to raise our voices, because I'm telling you, this owner will sack him if we don't raise our voice. Like I said before, he could sack him anyway, whether we open our mouth or not. But the bottom line is, it's better that we use our voices, not just on social media, but with peaceful protest next weekend against Sheffield Wednesday at the Vic, to let this owner know that we're supporting Tom. We love you, Tom Cleverley. There should be banners all over the place supporting Tom Cleverley next Saturday. That's what I want to see at the Vic next Saturday. I want to see banners supporting. If you're going to bring a Potso out banner, you know what they've been doing with that over the last couple of seasons. But they can't throw you out of the stadium if you say, I love Tom Cleverley. Keep Tom here. If Watford fans put up banners, sang songs as they've been doing, Ole Ole, Tom Cleverley, that song, the owner's got to know that. The owner's going to be at the match next Saturday, and more than certain of it. He comes to the matches. He's in the building. I don't know, the bottom line is that he has to know that you're making some noise about this. Omariza joins us. Omariza.1. That's the Cardiff manager, but I don't think that's the official Cardiff manager, because I think his handle's different. But thank you, Omariza, for joining us on Instagram. Hello to you. More comments coming in from the YouTubers. Thank you very much, Watford fans on YouTube. Keep hitting the like button. Thank you very much indeed. And subscribe to this You ORNS YouTube channel at You ORNS WFC. Thank you very much indeed. Let me read out the rest of your comments. Loka says, and Loka, the Portsmouth fan that is, says, I saw many people predict Watford to be in a relegation dogfight this season. So with absolutely no backing from the owner to even be in the playoff conversation is a brilliant job from Tom Cleverley. Loka, thank you indeed for that. I agree with you. Tom Cleverley's done an excellent job this season. Yes, it's been a frustrating season. Yes, it's been an irritating season. Yes, there needs to be improvements. Yes, there have been a lot of injuries. And yes, the squad is thin. But with all those things considered, Tom Cleverley still has a mid-table team. He still has a team that has improved its standing in the table with one game to play. A team that could push for probably 11th or 12th place. I predicted 8th. They're going to fall short of that, probably, most likely. But this is the Watford side that I think has made improvements despite the fact that there have been some frustrating moments. This is the Watford side that he has got the most out of. Now, does this owner think that that's good enough for another season of Tom Cleverley? Do you think it's good enough for another season of Tom Cleverley? I certainly do. And if you back Tom Cleverley, you'll have more points on the table, on the board at the end of the season than you do now. I guarantee you, if this owner made any kind of investment in this Watford men's first team and kept Tom Cleverley at the helm as the head coach, he would see dividends being reaped as a result of his investment in the men's first team at Watford. He would. So, Gino, over to you. Make it happen. Come on. That's what we need. We need investment. And investment begins with Gino Pozzo keeping Tom Cleverley in the fold for at least another couple of seasons. Will Tom Cleverley be here? That's the question I have. I am very concerned. A number of us as Watford supporters, we are very concerned about this. Is this going to be Tom Cleverley's last game next weekend? I hope it is not, but I really hope that we put our voices out there, not just on social media, but at the game next weekend. If you want to see Tom Cleverley manage here next season, then the next weekend at the Vic is a really good time to let the owner know that you support Tom Cleverley. And a vocal showing of support for Tom Cleverley would be the tonic at the Vic next week. It really would, no matter what the result of the game is against Sheffield Wednesday. Because quite frankly, I really don't give too much of monkeys about what they do against Wednesday. I would like for them to get the win, finish on a high note. But I really think our job now as Watford Football Club supporters is to make our voices heard. And the way to do that best is to be at the Vic to do that. To sing those Tom Cleverley Ole Ole songs, to put your support of Tom Cleverley on a sign or a banner. That's what it is. It's up to us now. Now, like I said before, he may still turn around and sack him anyway. But at least what we would have done as fans is convey our support of Tom Cleverley, as we've done every week since Tom Cleverley's been the manager. Next weekend against Sheffield Wednesday is an ideal time for us to loudly, unmistakably, peacefully, of course, and proudly declare our support for Tom Cleverley. To thank him for I think it's been a good season for Watford despite what's been happening. But the bottom line is that we need Tom Cleverley here next season. And that's where your investment starts with the head coach. He knows his way around the place. He knows his way around the town. He knows the fans, the fan base well. And he's been at the club. That's why you keep him here. Keep an infrastructure here and then start to invest around it. He's got a good backroom staff. I like what Damon Lathrop has done. Of course, he was the Watford women's head coach a couple of seasons ago, got them promoted. You've got an infrastructure here. And if you were to get rid of Tom Cleverley, you've got Damon Lathrop. Make him the new head coach. Keep it in the family. But I don't want Tom Cleverley gone. I want Tom Cleverley here. Tom Cleverley's got to stay here. Joe Larkin, thank you on a Instagram. It gets worse every week, says Joe. It does. It gets pretty bad, Joe. The defending today was poor. The attitude was poor after we went ahead. We didn't do enough, Joe. Didn't do enough. Defending got slack. Poor giveaways. Temperament issues. Do I have to see loser get a yellow card 16 minutes into the game? Do I have to see that? Your captain getting a yellow card 16 minutes in? Do I have to see that? Do I have to see the needless fouls of Banqua? I know he's young, but a Banqua, do I have to see that from you? And nobody talking to a Banqua and telling him to calm down? Do I have to see Kayembe just back from a suspension, for God's sakes, getting into it with players again and arguing with the referee all the time? Do I have to see that again? I think Ido Kayembe has to leave the club, by the way. That's another thing. I'll tell you that for nothing. Yes, he scored 8 goals this season, but it's time to go in a different direction. Yes, I know there were lots of injuries this season. Quadro Bar, you keep him. Here's the first 5 players I would bring back to Watford. The first 5. I said this last week, by the way. The first 5 players I'd bring back: Quadro Bar, James Abankwah, Agil Selvik, Rocco Vata. I think I said Rocco Vata. I'm sorry, no, Caleb Wiley. And maybe it is Vata. Maybe it is Vata as the other player. Vata, Barr, Wiley, Abankwah, Selvik. I think those are my 5 from last week. Those are the first 5. And Joe Larkin asked me, it says the following: such a good first half of the season. I don't know how we're ending this 12th or 13th. Great point there, Joe, on Instagram. And Joe Larkin on Instagram says the following: who's the first 5 you would get rid of? I think that's a good question. I'll answer that for you right now, Joe. Here are the first 5 I would get rid of. Daniel Bachmann. I know he's on a contract, but he has to leave. Really, Daniel Bachmann's the first person I would have to say goodbye to, for various reasons. I think things have gone past him a bit here now. Agil Selvik has to start next season as your number 1, but that's the first person I'd see go. It would be Bachmann gone. I would get rid of Ngakia. I think Ngakia, listen, he's been up and down. He's been injured, but I think Ngakia has to move on now. He's been good up and down, but he's had some moments where he hasn't been. It's a shame, but I think it's time to move on from Ngakia. That, quite frankly, that's number 2. I would get rid also of Kayembe. That's number 3. So those are the first 3. And then to add to those 2, I would also say goodbye to Francisco Sierralta at this point. I think he has to move on. And I also think that it's time to say goodbye to Musa Sissoko. It's a tough one there, tough call, because I think he's been good in some games, but he has also been very inconsistent in a lot of other games. The first half of the season was not the greatest for Musa. I think he's very serviceable, still in an attacking position. He can still do some things. We know Bio's gone, so I don't have to put him on there because Bio's gone anyway, right? So I don't have to say Bio because we already know that Bio's headed back to Udinese anyway, so I don't have to put him on the 5. But those are my 5, Joe. Those are my 5. It would be Sissoko, Kayembe, Bachmann, Sierralta, and Ngakia. Those are my 5. Who would be your 5, Joe? And who would be anyone else's 5? I've given you my 5. The first 5 I'd get rid of. I've given you the first 5 I would keep. Would like to see from you, fellow Watford supporters, your first 5 that you'd keep and your first 5 that you would get rid of as well. Welcome to You ORNS WFC post-match on YouTube and You ORNS Extra on Instagram Live. My name is Omar. It's a great pleasure to have you aboard here on this edition after Blackburn Rovers 2, Watford 1. We'll go for about 10 or 15 more minutes here before moving on. Of course, we've got a lot of sports today as far as that is concerned. Loka says on YouTube, if anything, and he's talking about Tom Cleverley, Watford should be desperate to keep hold of Cleverley, not even think about sacking him. I agree, Loka. The reality is, though, is that we have an owner here who sacks managers, whether they are 13th or 3rd or 4th. We've seen this happen over and over again. Remember, Rob Edwards, I know you're a Portsmouth fan, but Rob Edwards was in 9th or 10th place with Watford when Gino sacked him after 10 games in the Championship. I mean, that's just how ridiculous it is. It really is. And then we ended up having 3 managers that season. Absolutely ridiculous. So, Loka, I agree with you. The ownership needs to know this, but they don't care. They will sack a manager at any time. That is the game. That is what happens in Italian football a lot. Managers is not unheard of to go through a manager at a club, 2 or 3 managers. That's not unheard of in Italy. That's very much the standard operating procedure. But Loca, thank you for your comment. Brown Electron says, I get the same vibes. I got the same vibes as you did. Sounds like Tom knows. Listen to this. I've got a lot of comments to read through here. Sounds like Tom knows something we don't. That's Brown on YouTube. I agree with you. Brown, if you're still watching, I agree with you. I think Tom Cleverley knows he's a goner. I think he does. I think the owners probably told him this. And I do think that the game is up for him now. And it's sad. I still believe, though, that we have to back Tom. And I do believe that we have to vocalize our support for Tom. But the fact that they've lost 4 in a row, it does not help him. Doesn't help him. If they'd won 4 in a row, then obviously you'd feel a lot more confident about whether Tom Cleverley stays. But with one more game left in the season and you've already lost 4 in a row, the first time Watford have lost 4 in a row in the Championship in over 10 years. Now, granted, some of that time Watford were in the Premier League, but the bottom line is that 4 consecutive losses in the Championship, that's not good. It's just not going to do, is it? And if you lose a 5th consecutive game next weekend, having the final game of the season at home against the Owls, Sheffield Wednesday, it's going to be very hard to justify keeping him here. I want him here. I still think that even if there are 5 straight defeats, I still think Tom Cleverley is worthy of having another season at Watford. But I'm not the owner of Watford Football Club, and nor are you. Yeah, simple as that. We don't have a say in terms of, we do have a say, but we do not have control of Watford Football Club. That's the reality. But we have our voices. We have one more home game, which is the last of the season, and we have the ability, most of us, to raise our voices at the Vic next week. It's that simple. That's what we have to do. I think he's gone at the end of the season, Brown says. It's very possible. I'm beginning to think more and more like a number of other Watford fans in the forum today, whether it be Michael, whether it be Brown Electrons, just not. It doesn't feel like he's going to be here, does it? You know, sometimes you can get the feeling that your manager is going to be sticking around, or a feeling that a player might be sticking around. But with Tom Cleverley, don't feel like it, does it? Doesn't feel like he's going to be here. And you'll probably get an even better read on that next Saturday against Sheffield Wednesday at the Vic. That's when I think you'll get a real read of it. I'll tell you why. Because it will be Fan Appreciation Day, essentially. There'll be the lap of honor. And you'll be able to tell from the body language of Tom Cleverley and how he reacts to that fan base, to our fan base at the Vic next week, whether he knows he's gone or not. I assure you, you will be able to quickly discern whether or not the man's going to be here next season. But we need to make our voices heard. See, that to me is the key. Because if we're not going to, because I think we need to keep our eye on this all summer. But the reality is, once the season's over for us, we're going to check out. I know we are. It's human nature to do that. Many of us as Watford supporters are going to check out. We're going to turn our attention to something else. And that's when the owner makes the move. So we need to keep our eye on this, and we need to make our voices heard. And certainly the ideal place to do that would be at the Vic next Saturday. Peaceful protest, or just showing your vocal support for Tom Cleverley. Even better, keep singing the Tom Cleverley Ole Ole songs. Bring your banners supporting Tom. You make it positive, make it affirmative. We love Tom and we need him to stay. I mean, that's simple to me. It's not a question. Joe Larkin says we should give him until next season. Joe Larkin writes on Instagram. Actually back him in the transfer window. We might have a good season. Yeah, I agree, Joe. We just have such a thin squad, Joe Larkin continues, and the injuries haven't helped. No, they haven't helped. And the issue is, Joe, that the owner has to account for that, because You're going to have injuries in the season. I don't care who you are, what kind of club you are, where you're playing in the world, whether you're Man City or Man United or Liverpool or Arsenal or Real Madrid or AC Milan or Inter Milan or Barcelona or PSG or Bayern Munich. I don't care who you are. You're going to have injuries in this season. And the ownership has to account for that with the kind of investment that he is going to be putting forth. So that you have 2 deep at every position, 3 deep at every position or thereabouts. That's the key as far as I'm concerned. Thank you, Joe, for your comment on Instagram. Let's go to more comments on YouTube, and there are a number of them. Philip on YouTube says, I think the Potters will sack Cleverly after only 5 wins out of 22 games in 2025, says Philip. Philip continues, this after we have all renewed our season tickets. They aren't going to be bothered with what the fans think. Philip, with an important point there, they're going to absolutely have less of a concern. Now, it doesn't mean that they're not going to pay attention to what we're thinking and what we're saying, I should say, but they're going to have less of a concern about that once the season tickets are renewed. I do agree with you on that, Philip. There's no question that that's going to be a concern, but that doesn't mean that and I'm not saying that you're saying this, what I'm about to say. I'm not saying that you're saying otherwise, but it doesn't mean that we should not vocalize our support. That's a general comment, but I know Philip's not saying that we shouldn't say anything. I'm just saying that generally as a general comment to everyone, even if that is true, that they don't give too much of a monkeys about the season tickets, about the Watford fan now that the season tickets are all renewed, basically. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't vocalize our support. In fact, I think it is even more so. That means it's more incumbent upon us to actually vocalize our support next weekend. I really think that's important. I really do. I don't think that we're doing, listen, whether we know he's going or not, whether it appears, quote unquote, that he might be going, that doesn't mean that we don't give him our vocal support next Saturday. And again, I know nobody's saying that we won't give him vocal support. I'm saying that we need to continue to do that and do it robustly and peacefully and be positive about our support for Tom Cleverly. That's the thing that we must do next Saturday at the Vic. It's that simple. I don't think there's any case closed. There is no other way to do that. It's got to be peaceful. It's got to be supportive of Tom. It's got to be positive for Tom. And I have no problem and no doubt in believing that that will be the case this coming Saturday, next weekend at the Vic. Now, thank you, Philip, for your comment. Evening, Omar, says Richard Lees. Thank you, Richard, on YouTube. Richard says, evening, Omar. We always struggle holding on to a lead. Frustrating. Yes, indeed, it is very frustrating. And Richard, that sums up this whole season. It's been a frustrating season overall. Good season for Watford, but a frustrating one as well. There are a lot of lessons, Richard, that need to be learned by this young side. And I do hope, dearly hope, that this young side learns those lessons in the offseason and takes the lessons learned into next season. And let's also hope, Richard, that those lessons are learned and that it is Tom Cleverly who will be at the helm to take this team into next season. That's the concern that I've got, that Tom Cleverly is going to be made expendable because of the last few games. And quite frankly, I think this owners wanted to get rid of him for a long time, for a good few months, as we indicated earlier this year. But it is frustrating to not hold on to the lead. And normally, when we've scored first in these games, Richard, we normally don't lose them. But there has been 2 or 3 times this season when we scored first and lost. I think it's been twice or 3 times. But the bottom line is there have also been times when we scored first and we have not gone on to win. We had a draw against Plymouth Argyle, most notably. It's one of the ones that really sticks in my craw. But Plymouth, goodness me, with all that's going on in the championship now, I mean, they may even stay up. I mean, and God forbid, Luton Town, of course, I just spoke their names. Luton Town, for heaven's sakes, may stay up as well. I mean, that's just unbelievable, isn't it? Plymouth got the win today, so they are. Listen, they have a shout. It's a very interesting situation as far as the bottom 3 is concerned. Hull City, they had a big loss today to Derby. Derby County are out of that relegation zone barely. That's a very important win for Derby. So now it's Hull, Plymouth, and Cardiff now. And Hull now really needs some help. Luton Town are barely above that relegation zone now. What a really, boy, this is going to be a real finish, isn't it? You have about 6 teams that can still join Plymouth. Well, Plymouth is still have got a lot of work to do. Cardiff are pretty much done for it. Cardiff are going to go down. They are mathematically now impossible to stop from the drop. Cardiff City are relegated from the Championship. They're on 44 points. They've got one more game to play. And obviously, if you're on 44 points and Luton Town, the team that's safe at the minute, on 49, obviously you're going to be going down. So Cardiff are the first team to be officially relegated from the Championship this season. Plymouth Argyle still have got a lot of work to do. It looks as if they're going to be joining Cardiff, and Hull City still have some life, but Cardiff are gone. Hull have a lot to do. They've got an away game next week, and they've got to win it, really, in order to stay up in the division. So that's that. But let me read out the rest of your comments. Watford are going to be safe, obviously, but this is a real problem. Watford still have a lot of things to sort out, and I'm really concerned about Tom Cleverley now. And I expressed this concern several weeks ago. I kept saying we have to make our voices heard. Back in late February and early March, I was saying this. We've got to look ahead to next season and keep our eye on this, because the owner will turn around and can this man. He really will, if we at least don't make our voices heard. And like I've said, he may go and sack him anyway, but we've got to make it clear to the owner that we want Tom Cleverley to stay and that we back Tom Cleverley. We've got to do that at this game. Social media is nice, but Gino don't look at social media. Gino looks at the receipts at the box office, if you will. He looks at the crowds, and he looks at the season ticket money, and he looks at the money from the gate. He looks at the merchandise money. It's as simple as that. This is about the money. It's always about the money. This is what football is. It's a business. It's a business. And nobody's coming in to buy this club anytime soon. This owner has got this baby, and this baby is ours. And we, as the people who love this club so dearly, have a right to be very passionate and peaceful, very important, of our support of this manager and this club that we love. Gino's not going to be the owner of the club forever. But while he's here, and he's clearly not going anywhere, we have to make it clear to him that Tom Cleverley is the man for next season. If you want some success, you got to back Tom, and you've got to invest in this men's first team properly. You got to play the youth, and you got to bring back some players who are experienced players. I back bringing Ince back here. I really do. Imran Loser, yeah, I suppose you could bring him back. Tracy has joined us. Thank you very much indeed, Tracy. Nice to have you aboard. Hope you're well, Tracy. Good to have you aboard here on You Orns Extra on Instagram Live. Welcome aboard. We have been talking now for a little while about Watford and the manager. Is Tom Cleverley going to be back next season? Do you think Tom Cleverley will make it to begin the season, next season that is, as the Watford head coach? I am very concerned about this now. I've been concerned about it for a while, and lots of Watford fans are concerned about this man being here. Will he survive? Will he begin next season as Watford manager? I really, right now, am very, very shaky on it. I think it depends on a couple of things. One, whether Watford win the game next week. And two, how much vocal support we're going to give him at the Vic next week. Maybe the die has already been cast. Maybe Tom Cleverley has already been given his marching orders, has already been told. Who knows? That article by our man Andrew French at the Watford Observer this week, I saw it this morning, read it this morning. Some of them quotes from Tom Cleverley in that article that Andrew French did, that he wrote, sound very much past tense. Now, obviously, the events he talks about in the quotes, where he's quoted are past tense events, but it just has an extra feel to it, doesn't it? Coming to the end of a season like this, But that does not mean that we relent, and it does not mean that we do not use our voices, and it certainly doesn't mean that we shouldn't have a peaceful protest. We absolutely should be peacefully protesting. But I think even more than that, as far as next Saturday is concerned, we need to positively vocalize our support for Tom Cleverley and let this owner know that we love Tom Cleverley, that we're backing him, and that we want him here next season. That's the thing in the immediate future that we all should be doing if we're at the Vic next weekend, or even if we're not at the Vic. Post a video saying you support Tom Cleverley and make sure you tag the Watford FC team or their social media account. We all should be doing that. At minute, I know I'm going to do it. Vocalize your support for Tom Cleverley. Do it on all these social media platforms. Tom Cleverley is on Instagram, for heaven's sake. Tag him on Instagram. Make a video. Let him know you support him, and make sure that you make a video. Make a video. Let Tom Cleverley know that you support him, and also tag the Watford FC official Instagram account. It's positive. It's not negative. It's a positive support of Tom Cleverley. We all need to be doing that at minimum. If we're not at the Vic, if we're not going next weekend, some of us, because I won't be able to go. I'm here on the West Coast in California. But for those of you who are going to be at that game on Saturday, next Saturday at the Vic, you need to be vocalizing your support in person, as well as doing it on social media. That's the way I feel about this. He may go, he may stay. Right now, if you ask me right now at this moment, I'll go for it. We'll go for a few more minutes. I know I said that about 15 minutes ago. We'll go to the bottom of the hour, right? If you ask me right this second, do I think Tom Cleverley is going to be here? I think right now it's a 75% chance he's gone. That's what I'm thinking. 75% chance he's out the door. 4 straight defeats to end the season is not good. One more game to play. If he wins that game, my odds will go down to it'll be much more. The odds will be longer, but I'll say it'll be a 50-50 chance. At this moment, with 4 consecutive defeats, first time in more than 10 years, Watford have lost 4 in a row in the championship. I'm saying it's probably a 75% chance he's gone. That's just my personal opinion. It's not based on scientific anything. It's not based on anything but 2 things. 1, the losing streak. 2, those comments in the Watford Observer just don't look good. I mean, in the sense, he's honest, but it just sends a signal, doesn't it? It's kind of like this mental preparation that he's probably going to be out the door. I could be very wrong about that. I would be happy to be wrong. I predicted before the season began that Watford would finish in 8th. I'm going to end up being wrong about that by a mile, but not by a mile, but I'm going to end up being wrong about that, right? And for a while, Watford were at 6th, 5th, 7th, 8th. They were right around there. But the reality is they're not going to finish 8th this season either. I didn't think they were going to make the playoffs, but I did say back in July and in August of last year that Watford this season would end up in 8th. A vast majority of us as Watford fans had a very different view. Relegation scrap, bottom 6, a fight. Some people even said they thought Watford might get relegated. Some people said that Watford would barely just about avoid relegation. I'm going to make my predictions for next season in the off season like I did for this season. And you make these predictions based on A, who the manager is, B, how you end it. This is how I make the predictions. I'll tell you this. And I'll read out, because you've got a lot of comments on YouTube. I will read them to you. I'll read them all out. I make my predictions personally on at least 3 things. 1, obviously the investment in the team during the offseason. 2, who's managing, and how did the last few games of last season end up? How do they go? And 3, what is the vision that is being expressed by that manager. And for me, I made these comments on Tom Cleverley, these predictions based on what he was saying at the end of last season, what he was saying in the off season. The investment wasn't great, but Tom Cleverley as a presence at the club for the men's first team, I thought was very important based off of what he had done last season at the end. Even though the results weren't all great, there were some positive signs. There were clean sheets. There was a renewed attitude. And I thought that that was going to be very important, having someone who is part of the club fabric, who has played for Watford in 2 different spells, who was the Watford under 17s or under 18s head coach. I thought all those things were important because they helped bring infrastructure and built up some trust and also some connection to players who he'd played with. So he's now managing players he played with when Watford were in the Premier League and in the Championship. Sierralta is one of those players. I will make my predictions about Watford in the off season, before the season begins for next season. I'm going to read out your comments now on YouTube because they're coming in. Thank you so much for them. I will continue to read them, and here I go. Richard, I agreed with you on what you said about the frustration. Got fly flying around here in California. Maybe that's Gino. A fly on the wall. I don't know. Gino, you have to keep this man on board. I'm just one Watford supporter, but there's lots of Watford supporters that I believe agree with me that Tom Cleverley needs to stay on, certainly for next season, because I think it begins and ends with Tom. It begins with the owner. It obviously begins with the manager, but it begins with the investment as well. And the biggest investment is who you're bringing in here, because to start all over again, I think would not be smart. That takes time. It takes time to bed in the philosophies of the new head coach. And then, I get it. People will say, well, there might be a new manager bounce and all the rest of it. I'm not big on these new manager bounce things. That does not happen in a lot of occasions. It's very sporadic. It depends on who the manager is. It depends on who your personnel is. It depends on all kinds of things, what the mentality is. Tom Cleverley is the one who has got continuity here, and you need to keep him. Now, if he stinks up the joint next season and loses the first 8 games in a row, then he's got to go. You won't hear me object. If you bring back Tom Cleverley for next season and he starts out by winning only one of his first 9 games, 1 win, 6 defeats, 2 draws, he has to go. He has to go. That would be the time where you see me say he's got to move on. 6 defeats in your first 8 games or first 9 games of the new season, I think he would have to get sacked at that point. But he has earned the right to at least start next season. He's earned that right. And I think Gino has to exercise a little bit more patience. I know that's impossible for him to do. But I really think that Gino has to bring back Tom Cleverley to start next season. At minimum, bring him back to start the season. Does he deserve an extra contract? For how long? If you're here saying that Tom Cleverley should stay, and I'm one of the people who is saying he's got to stay, how many years would you sign him on for? 1, 2, 3? Longer term deal than that? I think Tom Cleverley deserves at least a couple more seasons here. Give him a chance to build something. It's not like it's a downward trajectory, even with the 4 straight losses. They've improved their position in the table. They finished 15th last season. Right now, we're in 13th, so it is an improvement. Marginal, but it's an improvement. Points total also is an improvement, if I'm not mistaken. And if you win next Saturday, it at least takes the sting out of 4 straight defeats. It puts you in a positive frame of mind, a more hopeful frame of mind going into next season, at least into the off season. But we will have to have our eyes on this. We're going to have hawk eyes. We have to have eyes like a hawk on this owner in the off season. because the minute our backs are turned, you know what's going to happen. I really fear for Tom Cleverley. I really do. And I'm not trying to say that to be overly dramatic. I really am not confident now. And I'm normally a very confident person, but I am not confident about what's going on here. I really am not. But we have to support the man. Let's not just give in and say, oh, it's over, throw up our hands. That's the worst thing we can do. Next Saturday at the Vic, we have got to make our voices heard. I'm going to make a video and post it. And look, I'm going to at the Watford FC and at the Watford FC official and make sure that they know that I'm in full support of Tom Cleverley. And that's the minimum that we can do. Ryan says on YouTube, do you actually think Tom will walk away, or do you believe Gino will sack him? As I'm a little concerned regarding these defeats, our results. I've been a Watford fan since 2014, since I was 8 years old, says Ryan. If he does go, Ryan continues, which I've got a feeling he may go, who should replace him as manager? That's Ryan. Ryan, thank you for your comment. As one of the younger fans, Ryan, I appreciate what you've had to say here. Ryan, and one of the younger Watford fans in the building. And look, they're Watford fans of all generations who watch, listen, and contribute. And so I appreciate any Watford supporter who comes in and gives their say, has their say. And Ryan, your questions, I think, are well taken. Thank you for asking them. I think that Gino will sack him. I think that that's what will happen. Tom Cleverley, I think, has a certain level of pride. He's got honesty about him. He's an upstanding man, upstanding human being. I don't think that Tom Cleverley is going to walk away from this. Tom Cleverley loves this club. He loves the challenges of managing the club. He's up for it. He's made some mistakes like we all do in life. But I think Tom Cleverley has had a really good season personally as a manager. I think he has. Even though he hasn't got all the results he would desire, he knows what the business is. He knows what the politics are. He knows that this owner has not backed him. He knows the politics of that. And we all do. But to answer your question, Ryan, I think that he will get sacked. If he does get sacked, it will be a sacking. It won't. If he is no longer the manager, because his contract, I guess the contract technically runs out in June or the end of June. But the bottom line is, if he is gone, it will be because Gino sacked him. And the Watford brass and the Watford front office and the Watford media and the Watford press room can say whatever they want, mutual consent, whatever the language might be. If, still a big if though, if it happens, doesn't matter what the wording of the press release is for me. Whenever you see something like by mutual consent, that's the same as a sacking. He's gone. Right? The person's gone anyway, whether it's mutual consent, whether it's parted ways with, they all mean the same thing. Watford part ways with their manager, Valérien Ismaël. Watford and Rob Edwards agreed to departure by mutual consent. It's the same thing because they're gone. They are goners, right? But to return to you, Ryan, specifically, to repeat again, he's gone. If he is gone, it's going to be because Gino sacks him. Now, your second question, Ryan, is who do I think should replace him? That's a great question. I think there's a number of good choices out there. I would love to see someone, and I know one of them's at Oxford right now, Gary Rowett. I know he's a bit long in the tooth for some people, and some people might go, oh, that's an awful choice. I think Gary Rowett is somebody, he's been around the block a bit in the championship. Gary Rowett's been there and everywhere, like to quote Johnny Cash, I've been everywhere. I think you should put that on Gary Rowett's resume. He's been at Birmingham, he's been at Millwall, I think he's been at Norwich as well. I think he was at Blackburn at one point. He's now currently at Oxford. He was the manager at Oxford when they beat us a few weeks ago. So Gary Rowett would be one player, one manager I'd look at. He's an English manager, got lots of experience in the championship. I don't know if that's Gino. Gino to me is not partial to English managers, and I really don't want to. And I'm saying I don't want to make this about English managers versus not English managers, but I've already done that, right, by saying what I've just said. But I don't think that that'd be one of my choices. There are a number of other choices. John Eustace would be great to come here. I know he's not going to do that because he's at Derby County. Look at the job that John Eustace did at Blackburn Rovers before he got sacked. Look at the job that John Eustace is currently doing at Derby County. Derby County are probably going to stay up now. And that's really largely down to John Eustace. I would love for John Eustace to be managing at Watford. Former Watford captain. I think he'd be a good choice. You've got someone who used to be a player at our club, Dan Gosling. Hasn't got any real managerial experience. Had been a coach, I think, at Watford briefly. Dan Gosling. I wouldn't mind him having a shot at it. I don't think we need big names, Ryan. I'm not saying that you've said that we need big names. I'm just saying generally to you and everyone else. I honestly do not think that Watford need a big name manager. I think Watford need a manager who knows the club. Now, Gary Rowett doesn't know Watford in and out, but he's played against Watford. I mean, he's managed against Watford enough times that I would be comfortable enough having Gary Rowett here. I would have them kind of names. Gary Rowett should be considered. I think someone, again, like John Eustace should be considered. Those are the kinds of names. I know some people might say Sean Dyche. I don't think that's the worst in the world. Sean has managed us before. Of course, he's a former Watford player as well. But I think a lot of it, Ryan, is going to have to do with what the identity of the team is going to be, because each of those names I've mentioned has a very different philosophy about identity of their players and what they want and what their tactical style is. And that's what you're going to have to look at. It's a great question, Ryan. It's a question that I could answer forever, but those are some of my choices. I just mentioned them. Sean Dyche is a choice that I would not sneeze at, even though he's managed the team before. Gary Rowett would be another choice. John Eustace would be a good choice. I think he's not going to leave Derby, though. He's just been given carte blanche at Derby County. But those are my wish list of some of the names to consider. Tracy says on Instagram, can you advise us where to send our videos, please, where it will have the most impact? A great question, Tracy. Thank you for asking that question. That's a really great question. Where it will have the most impact, I think, to directly answer the question, Tracy, I really think it's anywhere on social media. Whether you have a YouTube channel, send it there. I do all of those places. I wouldn't do just one, right? I think the key here is if you have, as you know, if you're on multiple social media accounts, and this is not only to Tracy, this is to everyone watching. If you have multiple social media accounts and you can that allow you to post video, post the same video on every one of them. And if Watford FC is on those social media channels as well, make sure you tag them on every one of them. That's really the best advice I have. Because I just think, Tracy, the more, and this is to everyone as well as Tracy, I just think the more the merrier. There are people who can post that message and spread that message around on various social media channels. I would just say post, if you have social media accounts, post the video on every one of them and tag Watford on every one of them. Even it, and listen, if Watford are not on that channel, make sure you also hashtag Watford FC. I really think that's important because they're going to be Watford fans on other social media channels that may not be on your social media channel. But I would just post it everywhere you can. That's really my best answer. Might not be the perfect answer, and nothing's perfect. But I think that you should use, if you're on X, post it there. As much as I'm not the biggest fan of X, I do listen. I go on X obviously for Watford, but post it there. If you have an account on Instagram, post a video there as well. If you have an account on YouTube, post a YouTube video and tag them there, or use your YouTube and put it on your social media channel on X or on Instagram or wherever, TikTok or wherever, and make sure you tag the Watford FC on there. If they've got a TikTok channel, if they've got a Snapchat channel, if they've got a YouTube channel, if they've got a Facebook channel, for heaven's sake, I'd do that too. I'm not the biggest fan of Facebook, but put it everywhere and tag Watford FC official or Watford FC. That's what I would do. Listen, I'm going to be posting a video coming up in the next few days, and make sure that we have to do this. Every one of us has to do this. We've got the ability to do it. If you're watching this right now, you have a social media channel. If you are watching this right now, you have the ability to post a YouTube video. You have the ability to post a YouTube video onto a social media channel that you belong to, whether it's any of these platforms I've mentioned. If you have an Instagram account, you obviously do if you're watching this. Make an Instagram video and post an @Watford FC official or official Watford FC, whatever it is, Watford FC official on Instagram. And say that you back Tom Cleverley and you support him 110%, and tag Tom Cleverley as well. Tom Cleverley is on Instagram. But I would do this everywhere. That's my to answer the question that Tracy asked. And thank you again, Tracy, for asking the question. I would tag this, I would post this video on all your social channels. And @Watford FC on all of them. Find out what Watford's account is on those channels and post it on there. And in all of them, also do a hashtag Watford FC. But this is, this is really important. It really is, because not every one of us can be at Vicarage Road next Saturday. Some of us are overseas. Some of us are in England, but can't get to the game for whatever reasons, right? Some of us are in England, but have different engagements and things that we're doing. We can't go next Saturday. Yeah, you got business to take care of. You got families, you got family outings you're doing, right? You got things you're doing, prearranged plans you had. So you can't go to the game against Wednesday next Saturday at the Vic. But those of us who are going have to make our voices heard. At least we can say, no matter what happens with Tom Cleverley, at least we can say that we did our part as Watford supporters to show our love for him, to show our support of him, to appreciate him, to let him know and let the owner know that we appreciate Tom and we want him to stay. And we want you, Gino, to actually invest in the club a lot better. Invest in the men's first team specifically. Let me be clear. Invest better in this men's first team, because I asked a question earlier. If Watford was the only club he owned, do you think he would do a better job of investing in it? That's the question I asked about an hour ago now. I've gone way past the half hour, the bottom of the hour mark, haven't I? Every time I say a few more minutes, I go for a lot longer than that. Oh dear, I cannot keep to time here, can I? I really urge you to make the video and make a video. It makes a difference. It does. I think it does make a difference. Make a video. You may not think that you're very photogenic. It doesn't matter. Bring your Watford shirt on. Just say something about Tom Cleverley and how much he means to you, how much he means to the club, and urge the owner to back him and keep him here. I think that's sensible, Positive, nothing negative. Just say you support Tom Cleverley being here next season. We all can do that, mate. All of us can do it, right? We all can do that, especially if we're not going to the Vic. And if we are going to the Vic, do both. Put a video out, tag Watford FC, right? We all can do this, right? And go to the game and do the same thing. Support this man. Make it clear from your chants, the ole ole chants, that you support him. I'm telling you, we have the power to do something. And all it takes is a 30-second video or less. Thanking Tom Cleverley for a season that's been that's been good, but also supporting him for next season. Say to the owner that we want Tom Cleverley to stay here, and he should be here. And make sure you tag Tom Cleverley on Instagram, because he's on Instagram. Include Tom Cleverley's name in there. You can search him. You can search him. He's got a verified blue tick or whatever it is. Add Tom Cleverley's name to the video, and add Watford FC official on Instagram. I mean, that's the best way to do it. So I emphasize it. I know I've been very repetitive about that, but I am emphatic about it because we all can do something. We should not just throw up our hands and assume he's gone. And really, we need to send these videos out either today or tomorrow, because we should not wait until next Saturday to send these videos out. Let's do these videos today or tomorrow, today or Sunday, the 27th of April, which is Sunday, tomorrow, right? Let's do this weekend right here, right now, right? Because Monday's going to come, you're back at work, and you've got other things to focus on. We can do this today, we can do this tonight, we can do this right now, and we can do this Sunday. We can do this tomorrow, April the 27th, 2025. Send out the video. Take a video of yourself supporting Tom Cleverley, telling this owner that we want Tom Cleverley here next season as the Watford manager. And you can give your reasons why, whatever it is, but it's got to be a positive approach. Support Tom, back this man with some players, and we need him here next season. Talk about the job he's done, considering everything. Whatever it is, you can make it a minute long, half a minute long, whatever it is. But when you've done that video, post it on your social media channels at Watford FC. Look up Watford's channel on your social media and make sure you at them as well. And if Tom Cleverley's on Instagram, so if you're doing it on Instagram, make sure you do the same thing. At Tom Cleverley on Instagram. Look him up on Instagram and put him on the video as well, so he knows that you support him. I mean, that's the way to do this. And do it on every one of your social media channels. If Watford is on every one of your social media channels, include them, right? Include them on there so that you tell them that social media team is going to see these videos. And if you've got 1,000 people sending a video, that's going to have an effect. 2,000 people. I'm sorry. That people are going to say whatever they're going to say. But 2,000, 1,000 people sending videos to Watford FC or Watford FC official on social media, that's going to have some impact. Now, he may make up his mind. He may have sacked him already. Who knows, right? But let us not be silent, please. We cannot be silent about this. We have to put a video out, because putting out just a tweet or a post to me ain't enough. You got to have a video. Yourself in a Watford shirt, whatever, a Watford regalia, whatever, a Watford scarf, and let this owner know that you support Tom Cleverley. That's the simplest, easiest, most positive thing that we all can do. I'm going to do it. I'm going to have it posted either today or tomorrow. We have to do this. If we want Tom Cleverley here, we're going to have to at least play a role in trying to keep him here. What we can control is the video that we put out. That's what we can do. We don't have any control really on whether he stays or whether he goes, but we have a voice and we should use it. We should not just throw up our hands and go, oh, well, it's inevitable. He's going to be gone, 4 losses in a row. And I don't express very much confidence of him staying, but that doesn't mean I'm going to sit here and not make a video and not say that I want him to stay. That does not give us the excuse to be silent here. Let me read out the rest of your comments. Thank you very much for sticking with me on that. And Ryan, thank you for the question. And Tracy, thank you for your question on Instagram. Yes, Udinese are doing great right now in the Serie A, says Loca. So I think he'd be prioritizing them, says Loca, the Portsmouth fan. Loca, thank you for your comment there. I hadn't even looked at Udinese. I know they're in the top 10 in the table, I think, or thereabouts. So yeah, it's a very, very, very good chance that that could happen. He probably is prioritizing them. I do agree with that point. Brown Electron says, Lloyd Doyley is our next manager. You heard it here first. That was Brown Electrons. Not a bad call. That's another one. I can't believe I didn't mention him. Lloyd Doyley has his coaching badges, as far as I know. So is it inconceivable? Not at all. Lloyd Doyley is another very good choice. I can't believe I didn't mention him before. Shame on me. Brown Electrons, that's a good shout. Would it be a shock? And if Tom Cleverley isn't here, I think Lloyd Doyley would be a great replacement. You heard me say Damon Lathrop, who's on the Watford coaching staff. He'd be a great replacement. I've talked about Gary Rowett, even though he's not of Watford. He's managed against them enough. Sean Dyche wouldn't be a terrible shout to me. I know some people say, well, that's very regressive. He's been the manager before. He didn't get enough of a chance for me as Watford manager. And I certainly would back John Eustace. Lloyd Doyley absolutely would back him. He knows the club well. He's been about the club. He's played, put a long tour of duty in. He's been a loyal Watford man, Lloyd Doyley. Yeah, why not? Why not? I think you could roll the dice with Lloyd Doyley. Why not? I don't think that's a bad choice. I'd be firmly in support of that as well. Brown Electrons, that's not a bad call. That's a very good call from you, as ever. Vladimir, says Brown, and he's talking about Vladimir Ivic. He was the manager at Watford in the 2020 season / 2021, although he didn't get into 2021 because he got sacked in December of 2020. And you know who came along after that, don't you? Answers on a postcard, please. Vladimir was literally Dracula, said Brown. Transylvania Ball. Yeah, it was like that. That is not an exaggeration, Brown. Vladimir Ivic was like watching paint dry. He was sucked the life out of you. That is not an exaggeration from Brown. Transylvania Ball is absolutely correct. Oh my God, it was so boring. No personality. And the manager had zero personality at all. He was almost lifeless as a manager. It was like Weekend at Bernie's. If you don't know Weekend at Bernie's, that movie, go look that up online. Oh my God, Weekend at Bernie's a lifeless man. I mean, absolutely, he was Bernie. That's who he was, lifeless. Ivic barely had a pulse. Absolutely right. Brown is absolutely right. Vladimir Ivic didn't have a pulse. It was amazing. He got through 3+ months as the Watford manager. He was lifeless as a man. He had no ideas, plodding, boring football. Oh, my days. He was absolutely lifeless. Thank you, Brown, for reminding us about Vladimir Ivic. I'd forgotten, and I wanted to forget about Vladimir Ivic. Absolutely lifeless as a Watford manager. He was shown the door. Gino's, and that was with Watford in 6th or 7th. I think they were in 7th at the time. That showed if Gino's getting rid of you in 7th position in the table in December, that tells you everything. And by the way, like I said before, Troy Deeney got him out of here. And Troy Deeney basically admits that Troy Deeney was behind that sacking. I mean, because Troy Deeney, and everybody knows this, a Watford supporter. I mean, many people do. Troy Deeney and Vladimir Ivic basically they didn't have a fisticuffs, but they had a bust up, and I'm a verbal bust up. And the manager, this is known. Troy Deeney told this story. I'm not telling tales out of school. Troy Deeney wanted the manager to explain to him why he was being left out the squad, why there was stuff going on. And the manager avoided him. Manager avoided Troy Deeney. Did a runner. And basically, Troy Deeney had him sacked. Let's be honest about that. Troy Deeney's told the story a million times. Ivic was doing stuff behind his back. He was saying certain things in the press, and everybody knew he was talking about Troy Deeney, but he wouldn't name names. why he was being subbed, why he was being left off on the bench, whatever. And boom, Ivic was gone. He was gone. Troy Deeney absolutely engineered that sacking. And look, there are players who do this in any club. They will engineer sackings. Some of them are big names, some of them not so big. Some of them captains like Troy Deeney, others of them not captain. Sometimes it's the whole team. They engineer sackings and managers. This goes on all the time. I'll manage the team, says Holly on Instagram. I know you wouldn't have Daniel Backman on that team that you're managing. Would you manage a team if Daniel Backman was on it, Holly? The lover of the self-professed and self-proclaimed lover of Daniel Backman. Of course, I am being sarcastic as far as Holly knows well, and we all know well that Holly does not like Daniel Backman, and that's putting it mildly. Right, Holly? I'll manage Watford. I'll do a better job, Holly says. You know what? If you can avoid 21 defeats, Holly, in your first season as manager, I will be ready to agree with you. Managing's tough. I think you would do a good job at Watford. Can you avoid 21 defeats in the season? That's what Watford have right now. You have 21 defeats. That's a tough spot, mate. 21 defeats on the season Watford have had. 18 wins, 16 wins, 21 defeats. I think you probably could avoid 21 defeats, Holly. I think I probably could as well. I don't know if I could actually. I don't know. Football management is very difficult in any level of the game, any level of league. That's a tough situation to be in. 21 defeats, though. I mean, again, this goes back to, is Tom Cleverley going to stay here? But we still have to put out the videos, okay? But the bottom line is 21 defeats. How many did Watford have last season? We were finished lower. I think we had 22 last season, maybe. Ryan says on YouTube, under Tom Cleverley, with the last 5 games, lost 4, including today, Ryan says, and 1 win in 5. As I say, a bit concerned regarding Tom. If he stays or gets sacked at Watford, I have already renewed my season ticket cost of £165. Ryan, thank you for renewing your season ticket. It remains to be seen, Ryan, as we said earlier here, you and I and everyone else, if he does stay. And Philip said earlier on YouTube, Philip Crouch, he doesn't think that the owner gives a damn about the Watford fan because the season tickets all been renewed basically at this point. So what's Gino got to lose now? I understand that sentiment. We still have to put ourselves out there, though, and make these videos. I think as fans, we need to do that so that the Watford social media team understands this, gets it. Include them on the video at Watford FC if you're doing this on X, at Watford FC official if you're doing this on Instagram, and any other channels that Watford are on. Post the same video in all the places that you're on. Seriously, let the media team know, and let that social media team at Watford know, and hashtag it Watford FC. Tom must stay, whatever, do that. I think we must do this. I'll be putting out a video probably today, maybe tomorrow, but either way, I will be posting a video. We've got to do this weekend. We've got to do this weekend because you can't wait till next Saturday to do it because by then it's too late. We need to be doing this as Watford supporters and get this out there to Andrew French as well, so that Andrew French sees this stuff too. You can tag Andrew French. He's at the Watford Observer. Tag the Watford Observer. Tag Andrew French, right? He's on X, Andrew French. I think he might be on Instagram as well, but I know he's definitely on X. This is what we do. And then he's on the pulse of the media because he's in media. He's a former Watford public information officer, and he's in the media. He knows media well. He's part of the media. He is the chief Watford writer for the Watford Observer. he can get to thousands of people, and he can get to hundreds of thousands of people across not only Watford, but across England, across the UK, and around the world. There are Watford fans in every corner of the world. I mean, a simple minute, half a minute, 20-second video, 30 seconds video. We can do this. We've got that ability to do it. Most of us have the ability to put a video together and speak. Some Watford fans might not be able to do that. If you have a disability, it will be obviously more challenging. But your presence means everything, even if you can't speak, right? If you can absolutely write out, support Tom Cleverley, put that on a banner, have someone do that for you, and then post a picture of yourself doing that, so be it. You know, that's important. Whatever you can do. If you are not in a position where you can make a video, or you may have a disability, have someone take a picture of you with a sign backing Tom, with back Tom. Have someone do that for you and post, and have that posted to your social media channel at Watford FC official, at Watford FC. We all can do something. I really believe if you can make a video, you have to do it. We really must. I think this is the best way to do it. And then obviously the next best thing is obviously being at the stadium next weekend. Show your support for Tom Cleverley and make it clear to the owner that he's got to stay. I really think that's important. Let us do that. That's the best that we can do. At least we can do that. Can't we? I know we can. I know we can. Philip Mason. Hello, Philip, on YouTube. Tom has done a good job with this week's squad. A shame that the results have faded over the last few important weeks. Gino will determine Cleverley's fate, says Philip, on the first games next season. So that is a very confident Philip Mason on YouTube saying that Tom, he didn't actually verbalize this, but it's clear that Philip Mason believes that Tom Cleverley will be starting next season as the Watford manager, especially when he says in his comment, Gino will determine Cleverley's fate on the first games next season. So that is a vote from Philip Mason, pardon me, on YouTube. He thinks that Tom Cleverley will stay on. Now, I'm really not sure. For me, I'm going to make a final decision on that, my view on that, based upon what happens in the final game of the season, the body language I see from him as well. But in the interim, this weekend, each and every one of us, including myself, must post videos to social media and tell everyone else to do the same thing on your social media channel, right? Tell your followers to do the same thing if they're Watford fans. Tell the Watford fans who follow you to do the same thing. Post a video, right? Tag Watford FC if you're doing it on X. Tag Watford FC official if you're doing it on Instagram. I mean, we have to do this and support Tom Cleverley and tag Tom Cleverley on Instagram because he's on Instagram. We have to make this happen. And if you can tag Andrew French on X, do it. He's at the Watford Observer. I think it's a sensible thing to do. I really do. It will take a minute to do this. Make the video, make it a minute, make it 30 seconds, whatever it is. Post it on your social media channels. Hashtag Watford FC, Tom must stay. Hashtag Watford FC, hashtag Tom must stay. That's what it is. If you want Tom Cleverley here next season, that's what we have to do. That's what you have to do. That's what I have to do. That's what we all have to do. If we want Tom Cleverley here next season, that's what I think we need to do. And we need to impress upon this owner the importance of investing this summer. Meaningful, wise investment on this men's first team. The summer recruitment, says Philip Mason, on that note, needs Gino to spend money or sell up. That is Philip Mason's comment on YouTube. Philip, thank you very much for your comment. I echo your sentiments. It's really put up or shut up now, isn't it? As far as Gino's concerned. I understand he's got Udinese. And yes, and I agree with the comment earlier that was made from, I think, Loka, the Portsmouth fan. Thank you, Loka, for coming in as a Portsmouth fan. supporting what's going on here in terms of the sentiment around Watford and Tom Cleverley. Loca said it earlier, you know, that he is most likely prioritizing Udinese, and I think that's very true. I think it's very true. Question is, we as fans, what are we going to do? We've got this day today that remains of it on Saturday, April 26, 2025. You got tomorrow, Sunday, April the 27th, 2025, to make a video. Because again, once we get into next week and Monday, Tuesday, forget it. You got to do this weekend. The sooner the better. And if this gets picked up in the media, whether it's Andrew French doing it, which would be ideal, that'd be great. Tag Andrew French on there if you can, especially if you're on X, because he's on X. And I think that that's a really good way to go. I think this is very important. We've got to get this done. We really, really do. Post it on all your social media channels. If you've got a YouTube channel, post a video there, and then, you know, post a link to that video on your social media channels. Make a video with your cell phone camera. I mean, we can do this. We can do this, right? So let's get it done. All of us, including myself. I will definitely get this done for myself doing this. But each and every one of you has to do this also. All of us must do this. All of us who want Tom here and want recruitment and better investment in the men's first team must do this. Ryan says Cisco Munoz used to be Sheffield Wednesday manager. That is correct. He certainly was for about a month, and then they got rid of him. I don't know where Cisco is now doing his disco, but he definitely was the Wednesday manager. I think it was the last season or the season before. It didn't last very long. But bottom line is that he was Wednesday manager for a brief time. Wednesday come in, of course, this coming next Saturday, I should say, in the final game of the season. We play host to them. We'll see what happens. Brown Electron says Kayembe was doing his best to get sent off too. Yeah, he was. Lots of comments here to read out. I agree, Brown. Kayembe is no longer interested. He's one of the players I think has to go. Philip Crouch says, my 5 to go. Backman, Ince, Kayembe, Sissoko, and Deli Bashiru. 5 to start next season. Selvik, Pollock, Luza, Droma, and Dumbia. So that is what Philip Crouch has to say. His first 5 to go and his first 5 to start next season. Who are your first 5? I asked this question earlier, and I have to read out. There may be more that have come in since, because I've not really read out all your comments yet. But who are your first 5 and your first 5 to leave and your first 5 to come in at Watford for next season? Backman, Ince, by Kayembe, Sissoko, and TDB. That's Philip Crouch's first 5 to go, and his first 5 to start for next season: Selvik, Pollock, Luza, Droma, and Dumbia. Barr is not on his list of the first 5 to start next season. Philip Crouch, thank you very much on YouTube. D. Francis says, it's evident that the club needs a rebuild. It's just maybe a bigger job than I imagine, says D. Francis. D. Francis, thank you for your comment. D. Francis continues, it could even take a deep reset down to League One to start afresh. You never know. You know, it could get worse before it gets better. D. Francis, thank you for your comment. League One, it's possible. But in that case, if it is possible that League One is a destination for Watford, and I don't think it's going to be, and I will have to look at what happens in the off-season. But that's my argument for why you don't sack Tom Cleverley. Because right now, for me at least, it's about continuity and building an infrastructure and building from the bottom upwards and playing those youth players. It is a rebuild. It's been a rebuild essentially for 5 or 6 years now, since the end of that 2018-19 season that ended with our 5-0 thumping or a 6-0 thumping, whatever it was now, in the FA Cup final. I was there, and I still don't remember what the blooming score was. I think it was 6-0 we got beat. Since the end of that FA Cup final game, we've been rebuilding. I think we've been kidding ourselves, but we really have been rebuilding. Jack Magellis joins us from the United States as well. Thank you, Jack Magellis, on Instagram, joining us from the United States. We have people all across the world who come in as Watford supporters joining us. And I'm here in the States myself, but there are lots of people who support Watford FC here in the US and across the globe. And of course, in jolly old England, and of course, across the United Kingdom as well. Thank you very much indeed. I'll go for 5 more minutes because we really have gone through the barriers here on this long You Orns Watford FC post-match on YouTube, and of course, the You Orns Extra on Instagram live as well. I'm going to read out all the rest of your comments. You never know. You never know with League One. We do have to keep rebuilding, and we do have to stick with a manager. That's all I know. D. Francis, thank you again for your comments. As I said, the Watford Way. Thank you, Watford Way, for your comment in advance. Hey, Omar, I'm concerned for the future of Tom. Yeah, we have been talking about that a lot today. Watford Way, thank you. I know you made your comments probably about 20 minutes ago or longer, but we are very concerned here. You are not alone, Watford Way. All of us as Watford fans here have expressed our concerns about Tom Cleverley. Of course, these 4 straight defeats do not help his cause. I will readily concede that. But we as fans cannot surrender to the inevitable. We have to at least make our mark, and we have to put out videos. I do think putting out a short video on our social media channels, tagging Watford FC on them, or Watford FC official, whether it's on Instagram, or whether it's on X or anywhere, post your video on all the channels you're on, and also tag Tom Cleverley. Tom Cleverley is on Instagram. Put him on there, and Andrew French as well. Search Andrew French for the Watford Observer. On X, I think it's ANDROO French. Tag him. He writes for the Watford Observer. He could do a story on this possibly. And you need to do this either today, April the 26th, or tomorrow, April the 27th, 2025. Steph Bez joins us. Thank you, Steph, for joining us. Steph Bez on Instagram. I really do appreciate you joining us as ever. As anyone, I appreciate all of the Watford supporters who join us, and those indeed who aren't Watford supporters who actually have positive things to say about the club. I mean, because usually you don't get fans from other clubs coming in and saying nice things, but we've had a few over the last few weeks, including Loka, the Portsmouth fan, who has been coming here and visiting and giving his thoughts about Watford. That's something that you don't see a lot from Watford, from different fans or clubs, but that's nice. Appreciate it. Thank you, Loka, for your kind words. Much appreciated. As we continue here for the next couple of minutes, I promise. This will be over soon, as will the season. And the season's been over. Let's be fair. But Watford Way, thank you for your comments. Very concerned for the future of Tom Cleverley. But let's put these videos out at least today and tomorrow. Let's do that, right? We are all concerned, but let's at least put our voices out there on record. And then certainly, once we post these videos, let's do that again on Saturday as well, next weekend at the Vic against Sheffield Wednesday, excuse me. Philip Crouch says, if Cleverley gets sacked, it is likely to be the Spanish bloke rumored from a couple of months ago. Yeah, it's possible. I think that's probably where they would go if Tom Cleverley is shown the door. Philip Crouch on YouTube, I think that's a very good possibility. He's been waiting in the wings. We've heard this forever, especially in January and February this year. Would not shock me at all if that happens, but I definitely would love to see the Lloyd Doyle's of the world, including the Gary Rowett's of the world, the Sean Dyches of the world, the John Eustaces. I know John Eustace ain't going anywhere. He's at Derby. Look at the job he's done at Derby. Derby are going to end up staying up here, I think. John Eustace has done John Eustace did a very good job at Blackburn. They got rid of him. Whatever, there was issues there. For whatever reason, they sacked him. And now look, he's gone to Derby, and I think he's had a 5-year deal there, whatever. And look what he's doing with Derby. So John Eustace is not coming to Watford. Needless to say, he's not coming to Watford, but I would love to see him here. But those other names are good ones. I have no issue with any of them. But as you say, Philip Crouch on YouTube, every chance it's probably going to be the Spanish manager that had been rumored before. I think that's a very likely possibility should Tom Cleverley be gone. And at this point, it's a 75% chance that he is gone. That's my estimate. But again, please put these videos out there, showing your support for him and telling this owner that Tom Cleverley needs to stay on. Richard Lees on YouTube says they tried to bring the Spanish guy in earlier on in the season. And he certainly did, which is even more reason, Richard, that I think that's the person who will probably end up being the manager if Tom Cleverley is sacked. I do think that's what's probably going to end up happening, as Philip Crouch had been talking about earlier. Ryan said, do you think Walter Matsari will come back, or even Pepe Sanino for the 2013-14 season, I believe it was? No, I don't, Ryan. I don't think that Walter Matsari will be back here. He didn't leave in a good way. I don't think he even managed the final game of the season. And if he did, he didn't do the lap of honor. He just walked straight down the tunnel. He was done. And Walter Matsari was told he would be sacked before the season was over, and we all knew it. We were all told that, and I think he ended up, I don't know if he even ended up managing out the final game. But the bottom line is that's a big no on Walter Matsari, Ryan. Pepe Sanino, he had a good start to the 2013-14 season, but the answer there is no, and I'll tell you why I say that as well. A lot of the players did not like his training methods, and they soured on him, and he was a taskmaster. He really worked these Watford players into dust, really. And, of course, that was not liked, and Pepe was gone, despite the table position of Watford, and no accident for that. So the answer there for me, Ryan, to answer your two questions are no and no. But thank you for asking the questions anyway, as always. Would Cisco Munoz return even, Ryan asks. No, I don't think that's going to happen either, for the same reasons, not for wearing out his welcome, but just because I think Gino would push in a different direction. I know he's brought back managers before. He brought back Kike. That did not go so well, did it, in the second go around? So he lasted, what, just about 3 months, barely 3.5 months, whatever it was, in February. He was gone in November, I think. Excuse me. He was gone in, yeah, he lasted 2 months. He was hired in September of 2020. He was gone in November of that same year. And Nigel Pearson came in after him. So, and then that was that game at Liverpool where we lost 2-0, but played very well indeed and should have scored in that game. So no, I don't think Cisco will return. I think Cisco would love to come back. He's made no secret of that in interviews on podcasts and things like that. And some of the Watford fans probably want him back, but I don't think enough of the Watford fan base at this point probably wants Cisco back. There's still that sentimental feeling for Cisco. And I know Cisco has some good feeling sentiment for here, but at this point, I don't think Cisco would be coming back. And I'm not so sure I'd want Cisco back, quite frankly. I think this is a different issue now. This is about, for me, it's always been for me, about stability and cohesion. And that starts with who you're bringing in as the head coach. Then it starts, and it also starts with the investment and the recruitment. Those things, to me, go hand in hand. Because I think when you have a new manager here, you have to go through all those things again. And it doesn't take forever, but it does take the growing. It takes a long time for that plan to be implemented. Sometimes it can be up to 20 games before a team really gets at where the manager's going. Valérien Ismaël had been at Blackburn for 12 games. There were no wins until his 7th or 8th or 9th game. Takes time. Takes time. And Gino didn't care for that, though. But look, Gino was very patient with Valérien Ismaël. I mean, Gino didn't get rid of him until March of 2024. And maybe the door was being shown to Valérien Ismaël in January of that year. Richard Lee, Brown Electron says Captain Fantastic would be my favorite choice. Now, when you said Captain Fantastic, you know what I thought of, Brown? I thought of Elton John's album, Captain Fantastic and the Brown Dirt Cowboy. Do you remember that? I think you and I are a certain age. I am certainly up there in age. So I definitely remember that great album from the 1970s. Captain Fantastic, I guess you're talking Troy Deeney. Is that who you mean by Captain Fantastic? Or do you mean Elton John? I know you don't mean Elton John. You probably don't mean Elton John, but you probably mean Troy Deeney. If you're still watching us, Richard, Brown Electrons. I'm sorry, Brown. If you're still watching us, Brown, tell us who you mean. I guess you mean Troy Deeney, or maybe you might mean someone else. If you mean Troy Deeney, I would go differently on Troy Deeney. I actually would not want Troy Deeney managing. I think that a better managerial choice. Put it this way, I think Troy Deeney could be a great assistant coach. I don't know that he'd be the right fit to manage Watford, though. I mean, it makes perfect sense to have him as the manager if Tom Cleverley's not here. But he would not be my choice personally for managing the club. I'm managing the first team. He'd be good as an assistant coach, but I'm not sure. I think he might be better managing at another club. I think that could happen. Obviously, we saw what happened at Forest Green Rovers. That did not go well for Troy Deeney. Let's be fair. And that whole thing is not something that a club needs, and Watford don't need that kind of stuff either. As from a managerial standpoint, we don't need that. But I think that that Troy could actually go manage somewhere else, and actually, I think he might end up paying off dividends. Richard Lee says, "Don't care." John Eustace is who Brown is talking about. Yeah, Captain Fantastic. That's right. That was a nickname for him, wasn't it? Yeah. Well, I did talk about John Eustace earlier. I talked about him being a very good shout, a good choice. But as we both know, Brown, I know that may be your choice as well, as you said, it'd be your favorite choice. John Eustace is not going anywhere from Derby. He's done a fantastic job there already. He's only been there for 2 months, barely. And look what he's done. He's turned them around. They're out of the bottom 3. And they're probably going to be safe next weekend. I mean, John Eustace, yeah, that's lightning in the bottle you had to catch, and we didn't, did we? And he was a great captain for us. But that ship has sailed. He's down in it with Derby. Derby are going to stay up. And good job by John Eustace, because I think they're going to stay up. That's a good job out of him. He did a good job at Blackburn, as I said earlier. He's doing a good job at Derby. What's not to like about John Eustace? But we're not going to be getting him. But I hear you, Brown. I hear you 100%. Richard Lee says, Gino, don't care about me. All I care about is Tom Cleverley. That's got to be a chant. That's got to be one of the Watford chants. If it isn't already, I'm sure it is. It might not be. But Richard Lee's, good job there, Richard. I'm sure that is a chant probably at Watford. But that's what we've got to be singing next Saturday. And let's make these videos. Let's make the video, shall we, about supporting Tom Cleverley and getting recruitment in here. And again, tag Watford FC official on your social media channels. If you're on YouTube, make a video on YouTube and post the link of it to your socials. And at Watford FC or at Watford FC official. If you're on Instagram, especially, because that's what their handle is, Watford FC official, Watford FC on X, and all the other social media channels Watford are on, post your video there, right? And post your, do it. Tell this ownership that you want Tom Cleverley here and you want stronger investment, wise investment in the men's first team. And if you can tag Andrew French on that, do it. Andrew French is doing good work at the Watford Observer. Richard Lee says that his manager will be Robert Page, the former Wales manager. I don't think he's is he still the Wales manager? Robert Page, the former Watford, I think Watford captain formerly as well, if I'm not mistaken. Robert Page was really good for Watford. And I think he was the captain here for a time. Yeah, it's a good choice. Robert Page was the Wales manager. I don't think he presently is at the moment anymore. Robert Page is another good shout. That's a good one, Richard. Thank you for that. Matt says, I'd love to know why, when we get in all this transfer money. I'll read that again. This is what I'm reading off of what Matt says. Matt says, I'd love to know why, when we get in all this transfer money, why it's not spent on players that can improve this club, or why we always wait until almost the last day of transfers to make any deals. You know, Matt, it's a really important point that you're making. The club does this, and I agree with you. I'm not a fan of the club doing this, but I think principally one of the reasons why the club does this is because they don't have appreciable capital to make the kinds of deals that would be much more proactive and much more aggressive. And what ends up happening, in my estimation, is that Watford are really doing is looking at the balance sheet, looking at the roster, and looking at how many free deals or loan deals they can make. Because really, it's a loan market for Watford. They're not in a buyer's market to be making big deals. And I agree with you. Why can't we be more aggressive? If we're getting all this transfer money in, why can't we be more aggressive? I agree. But you've got an owner, Matt, who has two football clubs to think about. And I think that's also one of the reasons. I think that he really is robbing Peter to pay Paul. And I do believe that because he's got ownership of Udinese, he is going to look at the investments there as well. He's serving two masters. Now, he's the master serving two clubs. For lack of a better terminology, that's what he's doing. So the Watford interests are tied inextricably to the Udinese interests. He owns both of those clubs as if they're the same club, although he does put priority on Indonesia. I definitely agree. Thank you for the comment there. It's a really frustrating one, but this is how the club operates with this owner. Andrew French also has an email address, says Ryan. Thank you for that. Matt says, I also checked the table from the 2023-24 season, and we lost 16 games. Wow. Is that right, Matt? We've lost more games this season then than we have last. Now, to be fair, Tom Cleverley was not there for the entire run of last season. You got to factor that in too. He didn't lose 16 games for us. He was only managing the last 9, of which I think he lost 3. Maybe 3 or maybe 2. Maybe 1. Got to factor that in as well. Keep that in mind. Can't evaluate Tom Cleverley based on the entirety of last season when he was only here the last 9 games. Very, very important to keep that in mind. Andrew French does great work with The Observer. That's indeed correct, Brown. And look, you got to put Andrew French on these videos as well if you can. If you can tag him on the videos on X, definitely he's on X. I don't know if he's on Instagram or not, but definitely on X he is. I think it's at Andrew, SANDROO French, I think. You can search him. Search him on Instagram. And search him on X as well. I like Robert Page too for manager, says Brown. A decent player for us. And Chesterfield also did well with Wales. Yeah, he did. He did. And I knew he was the Wales manager. I just wasn't sure if he was still. I think he's no longer there as Wales manager. But he did a decent job in all those places. Yeah, absolutely. I hope, Ryan says, to see Walter Mazzarri as he is an Italian manager. Also, maybe Beppe Sanino. Your thoughts, Omar, on my manager ideas? I know both of them are Italian managers. They were both at Watford, as I said earlier to you, Ryan, when you spoke about this before. And thank you, Chris Hodgkinson. Thank you, Chris Hodgkinson. God, I'm sorry. I'm having trouble pronouncing your name. Chris Hodgkinson, thank you very much indeed for joining us on Instagram. Nice to see you. Nice to have you aboard. Ryan, as I said earlier to you about this, you may be a fan of Walter Mazzarri. as you said, he is an Italian manager, and Beppe Sannino. But for me, as I said to you earlier, Ryan, not for Watford. They've been there. Walter Mazzarri did not rub the fan base the right way. Let me put you that way. Let me put that to you. Walter Mazzarri rubbed the Watford fan base the wrong way. And Walter Mazzarri was not a very good manager at Watford. He had his moments, but Watford were in relegation 3-4 under him for a bit of time. I think this came after the sacking of Marco Silva, if I'm not mistaken, or before. Forget which one it was. I think it's after Mazzarri. Silva came on after Mazzarri did. But the bottom line is Walter Mazzarri did not rub the fan base the right way, and he rubbed the Watford players the wrong way as well. So that's the way that looks on Mazzarri. Mazzarri, by the way, was 2016-17, Ryan. I can tell you that for a fact because I went out to Watford to see him. In fact, I met Mazzarri in 2016. In fact, there's a picture of me with Walter Mazzarri shaking his hand after we beat Leicester City in the Premier League. When we beat them 2-1. Remember, you may remember this. Watford scored after 33 seconds through 28 seconds through Etienne Capoue. And then about 10 minutes later or 5 minutes later, whatever it was, Roberto Pereira scored a great goal to make it 2-0. And I think, and then we held them off 2-1 was the final score. I had a picture with him. I met him out in the outside the stadium after the match. This was in November of 2016. And I had a picture taken with him. I'll post that picture again, I think, at some point, if I can find it again. But that was in 2016-17, Ryan. So he wasn't, and Ryan says, the reason I asked is if it was a long time ago, if I remember 2014. Well, Mazzarri was 2016-17 season. Beppe Sannino was 2013-14 season. Maybe 2014-15. Beppe Sannino was 2014, if memory serves me correctly, because he got sacked before the end of 2014, certainly, if memory serves me correctly. So it was 2014-15 for Beppe. Beppe did not get into 2015. Remember, we got promoted in 2015, and that would have been under Slavica Jokanovic. Remember, Slavica Jokanovic came in after, if I'm not mistaken, after Beppe got sacked. And because Slavica did not start the season with us. Slavica Jokanovic did not start that 2014-15 season, whereas Beppe did. Beppe got off to a nice start, but he got sacked. And after that, in came Slavica Jokanovic. A lot of people forget him. Slavica Jokanovic did a great job. Obviously got us promoted. Remember, April 25th, which was just yesterday, was the anniversary, the 10-year anniversary of the Brighton 0 Watford 2 game, where Watford scored through, guess who? You know the 2 goal scorers. I put your answers on a postcard, right? He scored. There were 2 goals. Guess the 2 players who scored them. Don't look it up. Don't look it up. If you can avoid it. I can tell you who they are in a minute if you want, but you know who the 2 goal scorers were, right? Don't look it up on social media. Don't look it up. Don't look it up. Or on the internet. But that was in 2015, 10 years ago yesterday. I think it was April 25th at the Amex. That was when we got promoted. Well, of course, remember, later that day, we didn't get promoted directly after the game. We got promoted later on because the late game was Fulham versus Middlesbrough, and Fulham won the game 4-3 against Middlesbrough. And Middlesbrough were chasing us for that automatic promotion, and Fulham needed to beat Middlesbrough in order to give us that promotion. And it was a crazy up and down game. Fulham had been in the lead. Middlesbrough then took the lead back, and then Fulham took a late lead, and that was it. And on the bus coming back to Watford, the Watford faithful, the Watford players were celebrating. So that's that. So that's how happened there. Brown Electrons fight night tonight, Omar. Yes. Ben and Eubank. Oh, baby. I'll be watching that. Eubank Jr. and Ben. That'll be really, really good viewing. I cannot wait for that, Brown. Thank you very much indeed. That's going to be it for this edition. A long, long edition of the You ORNS Watford FC post-match on YouTube. Thank you very much for the Watford fans for joining me. Thank you, Loka, as the Portsmouth fan in the building. Thank you for joining us as well. Really appreciate that. And thank you on YouTube as ever, and on Instagram as ever as well. Thanks for the reminder on the fight tonight. Brown, a pleasure, and thank you again. Cheers to you as well. To everyone, cheers. Take care, everyone. The final score from Ewood Park, we know it already by now. Blackburn Rovers 2, Watford 1. That's 4 straight defeats for Watford. It's the first time in over 10 years in the championship that Watford have had 4 straight championship losses. We will stop. We will try to avoid being 5 in a row to end the season with. Our concerns, of course, is to get the win next week against Wednesday at the Vic, to show our support for Tom Cleverley. And in the meantime, today or tomorrow, post those videos, make those videos supporting Tom Cleverley and telling the owner to invest wisely in the summer for this Watford men's first team. Thank you very much, everyone, for watching. It's been an utmost pleasure to read your comments and to have you watching. Don't forget to support the YouTube channel by subscribing. Hit the subscribe mark. Please hit the likes, like the videos. And don't forget to subscribe at You ORNS WFC on YouTube. Don't forget to follow on You ORNS WFC on Instagram, and of course at You ORNS WFC on X as well. Delighted to have you aboard. Thank you very much indeed. Matt says thank you for another great chat about our team that we love. Thank you, Matt, for your comments as ever. Thank everyone for your comments, as we all as Watford fans want our team to succeed, all of our teams to succeed, this club to be even better. It's a great club, but this owner has got to treat this Watford club, especially specifically the men's first team and its approach to the deal making and the manager, with a lot more respect than he has. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much indeed. If you've missed any of this, watch this whole thing back. It's a lot to watch. But thank you so much for being here. Take care. And until next weekend, next Saturday, against Sheffield Wednesday, the final game of this season, I'm Omar saying, take care and have a good rest of your Watford weekend.